221. The Power of the Double Magatama Sharingan. How about it? Do you dare to spar with me? Obito challenged. Do you think I, who have always been the victor, would be afraid of a loser's challenge? Kakashi snapped back. He wasn't confident about the fight deep down, but Obito's arrogance grated on him. That's all in the past. I'm stronger now, Obito said, crossing his arms. With his two Tomoe Sharingan activated and his flame breathing improved, he had made huge strides on this mission. He was even confident enough to challenge Shisui. You can say that after you've truly beaten me, Kakashi replied coolly. Mu Yue stepped in as referee and gathered the disciples to watch. A little competition now and then is good, he said with a smile. He had high hopes for Obito. Not only had Obito's theoretical strength surpassed Kakashi's, but he'd also performed well against the Kumogakure Jonin. He was no longer the novice he used to be. Obito and Kakashi faced each other and formed the confrontation seal. Good luck, Obito. Good luck, Kakashi. Rin Nohara cheered, waving her small fists. Obito resolved to beat Kakashi thoroughly so Rin would see his true strength. Begin the battle, Mu Yue announced. Bang! They launched at once, fists colliding. Kakashi, your punch lacks power, Obito chuckled, then shifted his breathing and dropped into flame breathing, driving Kakashi back. Kakashi's expression didn't change. He used the momentum and a nearby tree to spring forward and land a punch. Their taijutsu styles were different. Obito's moves were broad and forceful, relying on brute strength, while Kakashi favored technique. They traded blows fiercely, nearly always meeting on equal footing. This is what youth should be. Metkai watched, excitement surging, itching to step in and fight Kakashi himself. Mu Yue waved two fingers in front of Guy's eyes. Youth also needs proper rest, he reminded. Guy immediately remembered he was still in recovery. Intense exertion wasn't allowed. Flame breathing, total concentration breathing, Obito announced after a series of probes, going all out. He inhaled massive amounts of oxygen to power himself. The total concentration breathing instantly amplified his physical abilities, both speed and strength, allowing him to press the advantage. Lightning breathing. Kakashi switched his own breathing, getting a smaller but still useful boost. He drew his White Fang short sword and slashed at Obito with blinding speed. Obito used the body flicker technique to dodge. He had the strength, but he couldn't take a blade bare-handed. Retreating, he formed hand signs and tossed a volley of shuriken at Kakashi. Flame breathing's greatest enhancement was to fire release. Obito channeled chakra and spat out a blast. The shuriken passed through the flame and turned into blazing projectiles. Fire release. Phoenix Sage Flower Claw Crimson. Kakashi's response was swift. He condensed chakra, performed a nature transformation, and spat out a lightning spear. Lightning release. False darkness. Lightning and fire collided in a thunderous explosion, sending air currents that ruffled their hair and scorched the ground. Rin gasped, impressed by their ninjutsu. He actually blocked my full Phoenix Sage Flower Claw Crimson, while enhanced by flame breathing. I'll need my Sharingan, Obito decided. He had been trying to see if he could win without it, but without the Sharingan, they seemed evenly matched. Obito concentrated chakra in his eyes. Their color shifted to blood red, and two Tomoe appeared in each iris. He finally used it, Kakashi thought warily. He planned counters even as he understood the odds were slipping. That's the Uchiha clan's Sharingan, Rin said, unsurprised. She knew of Obito's boasting about a Sharingan, yet didn't grasp the significance of two Tomoe. Shisui, however, was stunned. He hadn't known Obito had awakened his Sharingan. Obito had slept much of yesterday, and only trained this morning. The fact Obito's Sharingan was already two Tomoe upon awakening meant Obito had exceptional talent. Shisui felt a sharp unease. His own Sharingan still had only one Tomoe. With the Sharingan active, Obito grew more confident. He casually threw a shuriken, then charged with a kunai. Kakashi dodged the shuriken, but Obito exploited the opening. Another round of close combat began. Kakashi's White Fang clashed repeatedly against Obito's kunai. Relying on the Sharingan's insight and his breathing-enhanced body, Obito managed to scratch Kakashi's clothes. My attacks are being read, Kakashi frowned. He'd hoped his sword skill could close the gap, but the Sharingan's boost was greater than he'd expected. Purple lightning. Kakashi suddenly formed chakra in his hand, producing a dazzling purple bolt. Obito flickered back. He recognized the power, but it was a feint. Both purple lightning and false darkness consumed a lot of chakra. Kakashi had already used fake darkness once, and purple lightning would drain him further. Having scared Obito off, Kakashi retreated into the dense forest to use tactics rather than a head-on fight. Kakashi hid behind a tree, and Obito leapt to a vantage point, scanning with his Sharingan. Seeing no movement, Obito nodded and formed hand signs. Fire release, great fireball technique. A 3-meter-tall fireball shot toward the tree where Kakashi hid. Obito expected Kakashi to bolt out rather than endure it, and sure enough, Kakashi ran. Seizing the opening, Obito lunged. A kunai sliced through where Kakashi had been, but Kakashi dispersed into smoke. Lightning breathing, thunderclap flash. Kakashi reappeared using earth release. He focused his breathing, channeled chakra into his feet, and struck with the hilt of his sword. In that instant, Kakashi moved like lightning, his body hard to follow. "Haha, I was waiting for that," Obito said, not worried, but pleased. That lightning-fast Kakashi wasn't so fast through Obito's 2 Tomoe Sharingan. Concentrating his breathing to the extreme, Obito sidestepped the swing and closed in, pinning Kakashi and pressing a kunai to him. "Obito wins," Mu Yue declared. Kakashi had been the real body this time. Obito's advantage with the 2 Tomoe Sharingan proved decisive. Obito couldn't contain his joy. It had been 4 years, but he had finally defeated the genius he'd always admired. He was no longer dead last Obito. He was Obito, the talented Uchiha, because he had beaten Kakashi Hatake. "Effort brings its reward," Metkai exclaimed, moved by Obito's triumph. He recalled the thrill when he first beat Kakashi, proof that hard work pays off. 2-22, Obito Training Mission Settlement. I really lost. Kakashi felt a momentary daze as Obito's kunai pressed at his throat, and Mu Yue declared Obito the victor. Half a year ago, when Obito had come to him to practice movement techniques, Kakashi could have stopped him with a single kick using the body flicker. Half a year, 181 days was long, yet somehow still short. Kakashi could still vividly remember defeating Obito with ease not long before. Now, in little more than a month, he had lost 3 times, to Metkai, to Uchiha Shisui, and today to Uchiha Obito, someone he had beaten countless times before. None of these defeats felt like flukes. Each opponent had beaten him with real skill. Still, being convinced by the losses did not mean he accepted them. He was furious at himself. Guy and Obito had clearly been far weaker at the start, and Shisui was 2 years younger. "Don't get too cocky," Kakashi said calmly as he brushed dust from his clothes and looked at Obito's triumphant, unrestrained grin. "You won this once, but I've beaten you countless times. I'll win it back soon." Obito only smiled, unfazed. "Stop bragging. You have no chance against someone with the Sharingan." Kakashi's mouth curved under his mask. This time it would be different. He would show Obito and Guy how fast a genius could grow. He'd been lax these last 2 years, tangled up in mission protocols and official duties instead of cultivating properly. No more. He would stop seeking approval and just keep to his own path. Mu Yue watched the 2 boys full of fighting spirit and smiled. It was good to have goals. Strength followed. Disciple Uchiha Obito's cultivation mission completed. Rewards: Chakra 2500, Fire Release, Great Fireball Technique, Mastery. Fire Release, Phoenix Sage Flower Claw Crimson, Proficient Level. Disciple Uchiha Obito has received a life mission. Life mission: those who become Hokage are not recognized by everyone. Those recognized by everyone can become Hokage. Main goal: become the Hokage of Konoha Gakure. Mission progress: mission rewards, determined by mission completion and strength growth during the mission period. Settlement occurs for every 10% progress increase. Note 1. Automatic failure if Uchiha Obito betrays the village or if Konoha is destroyed. Note 2. Life missions are extremely difficult. Once confirmed, you cannot proceed to the next life mission until this one is complete. Choose carefully. Note 3. Higher difficulty yields higher rewards. Mu Yue considered Obito's life mission. It wasn't impossible. If Minato survived as the 4th Hokage and anti-Uchiha forces like Danzo's influence faded, Obito could still have a chance. The mission might even tie into Shisui's own path. If Obito reached Hokage, the Uchiha-Konoha conflict would be far easier to resolve. More importantly, the mission's progress could increase steadily. Rank promotions and gaining public support on the battlefield were all steps toward the same goal. Mu Yue decided to accept the mission. Kakashi had triggered a cultivation mission of his own, disposable Kakashi Hatake's cultivation mission set. Cultivation mission: defeat Uchiha Obito, Uchiha Shisui, and Metkai in combat to become the strongest among Mu Yue's disciples. Rewards: determined by mission completion and strength growth during the mission period. Mu Yue had never seen a mission that required beating 3 people, but it was essentially in order to take first place in the team's internal competition. It wouldn't be easy. Even if Kakashi trained hard, Obito and Metkai wouldn't slacken. Unless Kakashi made a sudden breakthrough in breathing technique, overtaking them quickly would be difficult. "Rin, wasn't I amazing?" Obito ran up to Rin Nohara, still elated. "You were incredible. You even beat Kakashi. If everyone knew, they'd be shocked," Rin exclaimed. Kakashi had made a deep impression on her at the academy. Without Guy's precedent, she'd have been even more surprised. "It's nothing worth bragging about," Obito said, though his tone grew mug when Rin praised him. "I can open my Sharingan now. Defeating Kakashi is only natural." Guy, overhearing, brightened at the mention of gates. "The power of the Sharingan, Obito. When I can normally open the second gate, I want to experience it too." Obito's elation cooled a little. If his opponent were Guy, victory wouldn't be so sure. Guy's 8 gates and rock breathing sustained high speed and power. "We'll see. I still need to become more familiar with the Sharingan," Obito said, neither refusing nor fully agreeing. He didn't want to appear afraid in front of Rin, but accepting outright might make him lose face. Shisui, standing nearby, felt a growing urgency. In one mission's span, Kakashi and the others had all shifted. They'd all changed a little. They rested until 1:30 p.m., then resumed training. Obito and Shisui practiced total concentration breathing. Guy did rehabilitation exercises. Kakashi continued striving for mastery. "Mu Yue-sensei, I've been combining lightning breathing with my family sword style, but it has flaws. Could you take a look?" Kakashi asked during training. "Show me," Mu Yue said. Kakashi pulled out his white fang short sword, adjusted his breathing, and struck. Thunderclap flash, a burst of lightning fired from his feet. He shot forward like a bolt, parallel to the ground. A large tree at his target crashed down. "Do you feel your reaction speed isn't quite keeping up with your movement speed?" Mu Yue observed. He thought Kakashi had potential here. He had already given Kakashi purple lightning techniques that didn't require Sharingan, but Kakashi had created a skill even Mu Yue found difficult to react to. "Yes, the trajectory is too singular. If they see it coming, it won't work," Kakashi admitted. "The trajectory isn't the main problem. When your burst power grows, if one flash isn't enough, you can do 3 or 6 consecutive flashes. The bigger issue is reaction," Mu Yue said. "There are 2 fundamental solutions. 1. Use lightning release chakra nature transformation to strengthen your nerves and boost reaction. 2. Master the ultimate secret of breathing technique, the transparent world. Once your lightning breathing reaches the constant state, you can learn to strengthen your nerves," Mu Yue added. Constant state. Kakashi knew the term. Obito and Shisui were already working toward it. "Then how do I master transparent world?" he asked. Mu Yue's expression grew serious. "I can't say for certain. It depends on your comprehension. Some practitioners spend their whole lives on breathing technique and never reach it. Others seem born with it. Transparent world was the forbidden level pinnacle of breathing technique, extremely difficult. By the time lightning breathing reached a truly perfect level, Kakashi's problem would be solved. Thunderclap flash, even a series of 10 flashes, would be manageable. Mu Yue also knew it was sometimes possible to glimpse transparent world without absolute perfection, but that required exceptional talent. "Is it that difficult? It might be impossible in a lifetime," Kakashi said, surprised. "As the name suggests, the ultimate secret of breathing technique," Mu Yue smiled. "Now, attack me." Kakashi didn't hesitate and swung his blade toward Mu Yue. "You're going to cut my left arm," Mu Yue said as he moved and perfectly avoided the strike. "You're going to stab my heart." It was as if Mu Yue could predict the future. He called out Kakashi's intended targets with unerring accuracy and evaded every blow. His displayed speed wasn't spectacular, yet Kakashi couldn't even graze his clothes. Shock grew across Kakashi's face. Mu Yue wasn't relying on brute strength or massive chakra. He was using extreme reaction speed to make Kakashi's attacks ineffective. This is one aspect of Transparent World, Mu Yue explained afterward. It lets you see an enemy's weaknesses and allows you to unleash 100% of your own power. Kakashi could feel the power in the description and yearned for it. When your mind becomes transparent, when you can say, and control every muscle and blood vessel, you've entered the transparent world, Mu Yue added, describing the sensation. He acknowledged Kakashi's expression and continued, "It can't be fully achieved quickly, but you can alleviate the problem. Special training can enhance your reactions." Training could raise reaction ability, though there was an upper limit. No amount of basic training would make someone into Minato or the fourth Raikage. And in combat, don't overuse such abilities. Once or twice per fight is enough. Obito countered Kakashi's thunderclap flash not only because of the Sharingan, but because he'd seen the move and had information on it. "Thank you for your guidance. I understand," Kakashi said, grateful and fired up. If there was a way to match or surpass the Sharingan's edge, he would find it. Mu Yue encouraged him. "Keep digging into your talent. If you keep at it, one day you may master Transparent World." After his questions, Kakashi devoted himself to lightning breathing with renewed energy. When training ended, Shisui approached Mu Yue. "Mu Yue-sensei, next school year, I want to go on missions with you. I feel I need to train outside the village. If I'm still in charge of the interns, then that won't be a problem," Mu Yue replied. Shisui needed real combat experience, and if everything went well, by the third semester of the next school year, his chakra should be over 70,000, making him far more secure. Chapter 223, Everyone's Changes. "I'm back!" Metkai called out loudly as he reached his front door, bursting with energy. "Welcome home. Had a youthful day?" Metkai asked from inside when he heard his son's voice. "Of course." Metkai beamed and gave a vigorous thumbs up. "I finished all my recovery training perfectly today." "Haha, as expected of my son." Metkai laughed proudly. "Come eat. To help you recover quickly, I've prepared a feast." Metkai approached the dining table with curiosity. It was piled with various meats and a medicinal stew brewed from precious herbs. "This meal must have cost a fortune," he said, eyeing it. It looked as if the cost could equal a month's household expenses. "Nothing is more important than a healthy, strong body. Now that you're a chuunin, you can earn more." "Guy, eat your fill," Metkai declared grandly. Things had changed for the family. In the past, Guy had been a genin with a poor reputation and few mission opportunities. Now, thanks to his demonstrated strength and promotion, Hiruzen Sarutobi had allowed him to take B-rank missions and below on his own. Even the lowest-paying B-rank jobs brought in at least 80,000 Ryo, and some paid up to 200,000. "I won't let you down," Metkai said, suddenly serious, then dove into the meal. Metokai's cooking wasn't as legendary as Mu Yue's, who could supposedly make people hallucinate with flavor, but it was food Metkai never tired of. By the end, he'd abandoned the rice and alternated mouthfuls of stew and meat. With 2 satisfied burps, the table was cleared. "Oh, right, the mission pay came in today. I don't need it, so I'm giving it to you, Dad," Metkai said, handing Metkai 110,000 Ryo. "Guy, you're truly sensible. You must have had it rough before," Metkai said, sighing. He always felt indebted to his son. Unlike other kids who had experienced guidance from ninja parents, Metokai's help had been limited, and the only thing he knew about the 8 gates was that it was a dangerously forbidden technique. "I don't think it was suffering. Isn't it getting better?" Metkai answered with a smile. "Yes, youth is about looking forward." Metkai cheered, not dwelling on the past. Metkai then recounted the mission. It was supposed to be a routine C rank, but we ran into a group of strong Cloud9. I opened the second gate of the 8 gates, and with my comrades, we beat a Jonin. "You actually defeated a Jonin? That's remarkable, even if it was a combined effort," Metkai said, surprised. Jonin were elite shinobi, promoted only after meeting strict standards of skill and merit. "I'm proud of you." Overcome, Metkai hugged Metkai, tears of joy in his eyes. He'd always believed in his son, but hadn't expected him to progress so fast. After all, Metkai himself had never defeated a Jonin. "It's all thanks to you, Dad, and Mu Yue-sensei. Without you and Sensei, I wouldn't have this power," Metkai said earnestly. "No, most of it is your hard work and Mu Yue-sensei's guidance. I only helped a little. Maito-dai demurred, aware that Guy's improvements came mainly from his teacher and Guy's own efforts. Guy, if you can, be sure to repay Mu Yue-sensei one day. Youth should be loyal and righteous, Maito-dai said gravely. Of course, I'll never forget sensei's kindness. Might Guy responded, tears welling in his eyes. He remembered how he'd been last in his class until Mu Yue stepped in. Without that help, he wouldn't be where he was now. After dinner, Obito went to Rin Nohara's house to invite her out. Hello, Uncle Auntie, he greeted as he entered. Oh, little Obito, are you here to play with Rin? I'll call her down, Rin's parents said. They knew the boy well. Rin, Obito's here to play, they called. Rin hurried down the stairs. I heard there's some event today. Want to go together? Obito asked cheerfully. Sure. You must be tired from your last mission. Come relax, Rin smiled and accepted. Let's find Kakashi and Guy too. Maybe they want to come, Rin added. Obito wanted to say they wouldn't, but he only managed. Okay, let's ask them. They first stopped by Might Guy's house. Play? You two have fun. I need to do my recovery training, Guy said, declining. Then I wish you a speedy recovery, Guy, Rin said softly. Thanks for the support. Might Guy gave her a thumbs up and went back to training. How about we just go? Kakashi probably needs a break too, Obito pressed, seizing the chance. Obito, you won't know unless you ask, Rin teased, wagging a finger. When she leaned in, Obito found himself staring into her clear, deep eyes and felt his heart flutter. He snapped out of it, blushing. Too close, Rin. Why'd you get so close? You were spacing out, Obito. It's only fair you got startled, she said, hands on her hips, a playful smile on her face. They went on to Kakashi's place. Kakashi was training in the yard, working on his reaction time. See? I told you he'd be training, Obito muttered. Kakashi noticed them and stopped. What's up? Something wrong? Didn't you finish a tough mission recently? We thought everyone could gather and have fun to relax, Rin suggested. Kakashi had planned to keep training to fix his thunderclap flash timing, but Obito jumped in. Kakashi, you're going to train, right? We won't disturb you. Obito's knowing tone made Kakashi change his mind. He realized Obito didn't want him to miss out, so Kakashi gave in. All right, let's go play. Rin, he refused, right? Obito quickly told Rin. Rin tapped his forehead with 2 fingers, mimicking Mu Yue, and said, Obito, listen properly. Where did Kakashi refuse? He agreed. Huh? Obito was baffled. Kakashi agreeing went against his expectations. Kakashi, are you sure? Obito asked again. I'm sure. Didn't Mu Yue-sensei say rest is part of training? Kakashi replied calmly. Seeing Obito's disappointment brightened Kakashi's mood. He secretly enjoyed it. Obito grumbled to himself as they walked. I might be uncomfortable, but Kakashi can't be comfortable. He'd been hoping for a chance alone with Rin, and it was ruined. At the festival, Obito's resentment colored his actions. If he couldn't be happy, Kakashi wouldn't be, either. At a goldfish scooping stall, the 3 competed to scoop the most fish. At first they all tried earnestly, but Obito noticed Rin watching how Kakashi scooped. Irritated, he followed Kakashi's movements and snatched whenever he could. If Mu Yue hadn't forbidden him from using his Sharingan outside, Obito might have activated it to scoop goldfish. Because of Obito's interference, Kakashi, who'd been ahead, fell behind, and in the end, Rin won. Next they tried a shuriken target stall. Obito used Uchiha-style throwing to deflect Kakashi's shuriken while aiming for the target himself. Kakashi, sensing Obito's malice, fought back. Neither of their shuriken hit. Rin watched them, helpless but amused. Why do you two have to compete even when playing games? She asked with a smile. Mu Yue-sensei said competition can help strength, Obito shrugged. That's true, Kakashi agreed softly. Obito and Kakashi kept competing at every stall, leaving Rin feeling a bit left out, but she smiled as she watched them bicker and push each other, never seeming truly annoyed. It was, she thought, just another kind of growing up. Mu Yue had given his disciples Sunday off. He'd arranged his next lesson with Kushina through the Shinobi who delivered meals. They were to meet on the weekend at 9 in the morning. Mu Yue arrived 10 minutes early. He always liked to be a little early so that a surprise wouldn't make him late. Since they were in Konoha and everything was on foot, 10 minutes felt plenty of buffer. He waited, but Kushina wasn't there yet. After about 5 minutes, she came hurrying up. Oh, Mu Yue, you're already here. Am I late? She asked, surprised to find him waiting. She had meant to arrive early herself. As a teacher, she felt she should come first, but Mu Yue had beaten her to it. "You're not late. You're actually a bit early, though I got here earlier than you," Mu Yue smiled. He liked to see punctuality, even if he didn't expect others to share the habit. Kushina cleared her throat and slipped into the stern teacher mode. "Ahem, student Mu Yue, you're very diligent. You'd better be just as diligent when we study later. I'm a very strict teacher. Even Minato gets punished if he slacks off." Her attempt at severity fell flat. The stern expression looked more like she was trying not to laugh. Mu Yue grinned. "Don't worry, Teacher Kushina. I'll study hard. I brought a little something, desserts I made myself." He produced a small box and handed it to her. Kushina's eyes lit up. All pretense of gravitas vanished. "Mu Yue, you can even make desserts. Thank you." She opened the box eagerly. Inside were neatly cut, square white cakes she'd never seen before. "What kind of dessert is this?" she asked, curious. The scent promised something good. "It's osmanthus cake. I made it myself. You can't really buy these in the shops here," Mu Yue said. "Amazing!" Kushina exclaimed, gave him a thumbs up, and popped one into her mouth. The cake was sweet without being cloying. The osmanthus filled her mouth with a cool, floral fragrance. For a moment she felt as if the hot summer had been replaced by a plunge into a cool pool of flowers. "It's delicious," she said, coming back to herself. "I'm glad you like it. I worried you might not be used to it," Mu Yue replied. Kushina feigned sternness again, but she was grinning. "You're a sly student. Are you thinking that if I accept a treat, I'll be soft about punishing you?" "Will you accept it?" Mu Yue asked. "Of course," Kushina said. Jests aside, she wasn't going to refuse the cake. "But such delicious things can't be eaten all at once. I'll save some for later," she told herself. And then, as they walked toward their usual training spot, she kept sneaking pieces. One turned into two, two into three. By the time they reached their destination, the box was empty. She stuffed it back into Mu Yue's hands and gave an awkward laugh when he noticed her sudden stop. She couldn't very well admit she'd been trying to figure out how to eat even more. Kushina cleared her throat and began the lesson. Kushina's sealing technique class is now in session. Student Mu Yue, answer, what power maintains the four symbols seal? The circulating power of the four symbols, Mu Yue replied. Will the sealing power remain constant? No, it weakens over time and must be reinforced, Mu Yue answered. Very good. It seems you haven't forgotten. Kushina nodded, satisfied, and ran a few more checks to make sure he had the earlier material down. Mu Yue threw himself into the lesson. Kushina's method was classic and thorough, and her knowledge of sealing techniques ran deep. With his own aptitude, Mu Yue made quick progress. By 1 in the afternoon, his proficiency with the four symbols seal had risen to 50 points. Still beginner level, but a solid start. For lunch, he invited Kushina to the same restaurant as before and borrowed the kitchen to prepare a proper hot meal. The delivered food was good, but freshly made dishes are better, Kushina said contentedly. After lunch, Kushina's time was up. She handed Mu Yue the cultivation scroll and left with Ambu escort back to the Uzumaki sealing house. Mu Yue watched her go and then checked on his shadow clone's progress at the forge. Obito had said he liked anything as a gift, but Mu Yue had seen the way Obito eyed Shisui's birthday present. He wanted a ninja tool made by Mu Yue himself. To make the gifts distinct, this time, Mu Yue had the clone forge a standard kunai rather than a short blade. He was showing his care in the details, intricate dragon engravings, Obito's name carved on both sides, and the Uchiha clan crest on the grip. The kunai was mostly finished, only the fine detailing remained. Plenty of time, 6 days, Mu Yue thought. He remembered how the earlier interactions had pushed a disciple's feelings up to trust level 4, and that a perfect grade reward had been granted. He didn't expect such explosive rewards again, but he wanted to prepare a meaningful present. He couldn't show favoritism, and Obito had already given him a gift in return. Next, he went to Asuma's house to tutor him. Today I'll teach you wind release nature transformation, Mu Yue said, smiling as he introduced the new material. As I knew, Teacher Mu Yue, you'd learn wind release fast, Asuma said happily. It's gone smoother than I expected, Mu Yue admitted, then demonstrated. For wind nature transformation, think of it as thin and sharp. He plucked a leaf, condensed chakra, and performed a quick nature change. The leaf split into several pieces. or like a shockwave of air. Mu Yue formed hand seals, concentrated chakra in his throat, and expelled an almost invisible wind shockwave. Trees and stones struck by it were sliced clean through. Wind-released chakra is like a blade, cutting and piercing are its strengths, he explained. Asuma stared wide-eyed. Mu Yue's command of wind release after only a few months of study exceeded his expectations. Teacher Mu Yue, I told you, how would you know if you're good at something without trying? You're a wind release prodigy. Asuma grinned. Mu Yue's growth meant Asuma would have a reliable wind release teacher for the future. One step at a time, Mu Yue said, patting Asuma's head. Hiruzen had labeled him a shinobi capable of fighting with 3 types of nature transformation. Asuma suggested Mu Yue might handle lightning or earth too if he had more resources, but Mu Yue preferred to deepen what he already knew. After an afternoon of training that Asuma reckoned was more valuable than 10 days with a chuunin, they parted. I should have graduated a year later, Asuma complained. Then I could have interned with you. If you train diligently now, that's the same. If I have time, I'll let you know. After this internship period ends, I should have more time for tutoring, Mu Yue replied. When he got home to the main district, Mu Yue prepared dinner, studied the 4 symbols seal for a while, and resumed his work on developing water breathing. Breathing techniques were forbidden jutsu, and despite having learned 3 already, water breathing proved especially challenging. It had to enhance physical strength while also accelerating water release, nature transformation. 2 demanding requirements that made progress slow but steady. What kind of presents will they give me? Obito wondered idly during lunch. His birthday was less than a week away, and he was sure Mu Yue, Rin Nohara, and the others had already planned something. Guy will probably give me a tracksuit, he decided. It wasn't that Might Guy was thoughtless with gifts. Obito just suspected the man loved tracksuits so much his wardrobe was nothing but them. He could understand wanting to share something you liked with a friend, but if Guy really did give him one, Obito would treasure it without ever wearing it. The idea of Kakashi laughing at him in that outfit was unbearable. Rin will make me something, he guessed next, remembering the gifts she'd given before. Rin had once given Shisui a handmade craft and given Guy a painting she'd painted herself. If Rin drew a picture of their outing the day before, just the 2 of them, not Kakashi, he'd be pleased. Shisui and Kakashi would be practical, he thought. Shisui had given training equipment for Guy's last birthday. Kakashi had handed over a cultivation elixir without fuss. Obito appreciated useful gifts, but he preferred things you could keep over things that would be consumed, so he still thought a tracksuit had the edge. What will Teacher Mu Yue give me? That was the gift he anticipated most. Mu Yue always took time to tailor meaningful presents. He'd personally learned forging to craft a short blade for Shisui, and he'd helped arrange a promotion for Guy's father, and co-created a taijutsu scroll as a present. Obito allowed himself a ridiculous little fantasy. Would Mu Yue stand up on his birthday and declare he was the reincarnation of the 6-Path Sage and destined to become Hokage? He laughed at the thought, even as he pictured it. Obito, what are you smiling about? Rin's voice pulled him out of his daydream. Renath, she was sitting beside him, knees hugged to her chest, gazing up at the sky with a small, gentle smile. Nothing much, he said with a chuckle. My birthday's coming, and I'll get cake. I'm happy. Birthdays are nice, Rin said. Everyone gets together and has fun. She looked at him kindly. Your smile is fine, Obito. It's unique and kind. Hearing that, Obito dismissed Kakashi's earlier teasing as nonsense. Rin's praise mattered far more to him. He couldn't help grinning back. Rin, your smile is really gentle too, he replied. And everyone else's smiles are great, he added with a satisfied smirk, except that guy, Kakashi, who hides his face and still mocks people. Kakashi was passing by on his way to ask Mu Yue a question when he overheard. He stopped and said flatly, I'm just telling the truth. You're just jealous of my kind smile, Obito shot back, puffing with confidence. Kakashi sneered but didn't answer. Besides, you always wear a mask, must not be confident in your looks, Obito jabbed, remembering how Kakashi had ruined his and Rin's private time the day before. That's why I'm a chuunin, and you're not even a formal ninja, Kakashi retorted. Hiding your face is a basic skill for a ninja. There are no enemies around, so why hide? Obito said. "And even as a chuunin, you still can't beat me." He finished with a smug grin. Kakashi's eyebrow twitched. He'd expected this day would come. He tried another tack. Rank isn't just strength. It's about knowledge, intelligence gathering, traps. With your level, you wouldn't pass the first theoretical exam of the chuunin exams without your teammates helping. Obito seized on the insult. "I'm not even a formal ninja. Whatever. I'm still stronger than you." Kakashi was left speechless. He made a mental note to train harder and reclaim his standing. The sooner he did, the less he'd have to put up with this. Kakashi ignored Obito and walked over to Mu Yue to ask about problems he'd run into while practicing lightning breathing. Even though it was break time, Mu Yue didn't mind. He answered every question and demonstrated the techniques. After Mu Yue's explanations and a quick demonstration, a clear image formed in Kakashi's mind. He grasped most of it immediate lie. "So that's it," Kakashi said, eyes bright with understanding. "When you have problems, don't try to solve them alone," Mu Yue said warmly. "Whether in cultivation or anything else, you can always ask me." "Understood. Thank you," Kakashi said, grateful, and began practicing lightning breathing. Mu Yue glanced at his progress. Kakashi's proficiency had risen very well, already over 60 points. Ever since that epiphany in the fight with the Jonin, Kakashi had improved by leaps and bounds. At this rate, he might even break Obito's initiation record for breathing techniques. Mu Yue reflected on Kakashi's development. Lightning release, earth release, swordsmanship, and breathing technique. He didn't want Kakashi to become the kind of fighter who knew 1,000 jutsu superficially. In the original stories, Kakashi had been called the copy ninja, copying countless ninjutsu with his Sharingan. Mu Yue preferred depth over breadth. Mastering a handful of techniques thoroughly was better than skimming thousands. Of course, that was just a metaphor. Some people, those with cheats like him, could afford a different path. Learning widely wasn't as valuable as learning systematically and deeply. Let's practice breathing technique for another 4 hours after dinner. We need to raise our concentration as fast as possible. Even on the walk home, Kakashi couldn't stop thinking about training. Right now, he was focusing on lightning breathing, with armament haki and lightning release chakra nature transformation as supplements. His priority was clear: breathing technique first. It improved training efficiency and strengthened the body. His thunderclap flash needed breathing technique pushed to the constant state to make up for its weaknesses. Armament haki and nature transformation were powerful, but not helpful enough for him at the moment. He didn't have the chakra to make full use of nature transformation, and slapping armament haki onto his purple lightning would empty him after a single use. He basically used purple lightning only once in a fight. Adding haki would cost too much. Lately, there have been more war missions, and they're all in grass country. I wonder how the front lines are holding up. I heard Jiraiya of the Sannin led a team there. With someone like him on the front, it should be fine. It sounds like Sensei's been thinking of going too. Maybe our next assignment will be a war mission. We might even get to see Jiraiya fight. War's way more dangerous than normal missions. We have to watch each other's backs. Of course, we're comrades. Kakashi heard a slightly familiar voice on the street. He turned and saw 2 former teammates. For a moment he hesitated, then walked over without disguising himself. The 2 stiffened at his approach, guessing he meant trouble, perhaps revenge for something? They had always found Kakashi cold and ruthless, a genius who was young but frighteningly strong. They braced themselves. "I'm sorry about what happened before," Kakashi said. When they'd been teammates, he had, on more than one occasion, put the mission ahead of his comrades' safety. Back then, he'd believed a ninja's duty was mission completion. Sacrifices were worth it if the objective was finished. If a mission failed, even protecting comrades could invite blame. He had acted on that belief. But he had changed. Saying sorry wasn't just for them, it was a formal farewell to his old self. From now on, he would train hard and protect those he wanted to protect. He wouldn't run away from admitting mistakes. The 2 former teammates were taken aback. They had expected something else: anger, confrontation, but not an apology. Kakashi didn't linger. Seeing them at a loss, he walked on toward his home. "That was strange," one of them said after he left. "Who apologizes like that out of the blue?" Is he apologizing for past missions? He's changed a lot, the other added, still puzzled. Meanwhile, Obito's long-anticipated day had arrived, February 10th, his birthday. There was no holiday. Training continued as usual, with celebrations planned for the evening. He spent the first 2 hours working on armament hockey. Apart from Rin and Metkai, the other 3 disciples had already started hockey training. Rin didn't need it for now, and Metgai's yin release progress was slow, so he hadn't reached armament level yet. After 2 hours of hockey practice, Obito went straight into constant state breathing training until the training day ended. There were breaks, but the content didn't change. You must be bored doing the same basic training every day, right? Mu Yue asked with a smile. He didn't rush them into anything. It's boring, like initial physical training, Obito admitted. Except we have to hold total concentration breathing the whole time. Training is training, Shisui said. He didn't mind. It was the improvement afterward and Mu Yue's praise that kept him at it. All right, then today let's do something a bit more fun and challenging, Mu Yue said, smiling. Obito's stomach dropped. He had a bad feeling. He remembered darker training methods all too well. If given the choice, he'd rather face a jonin than return to those punishments that felt like endless problem sets. Those problem-solving punis Ments had once made him lose track of time. Actually, Shisui's right, Obito blurted. Training's training. It doesn't matter if it's boring. Whatever you choose, Mu Yue-sensei, will be perfect for us, Shisui added. Obito felt a little dull, but also relieved that Shisui had spoken up. Mu Yue's smile didn't change. The training is simple. Dodge my attacks. You can use anything. Sharingan, ninjutsu, whatever. If you get hit once, you do 2 problems. Successfully dodge once, and you cancel 2 problems. If you don't dodge at all by the end, the number of problems you have to do increases by 10%. Obito's mouth went dry. How hard will you go? He asked. If Mu Yue used full strength, they wouldn't even see him. My shadow clone will train with you, Mu Yue explained. I'll limit the clone's chakra so its speed and strength are similar to yours. If your breathing technique improves a little, you'll be able to dodge. The session will last 6 minutes. My clone will attack at any time during those 6 minutes. 6 minutes. It felt like forever. Obito pictured mountains of worksheets piling up if he failed. He needed at least 1 successful dodge. Mu Yue formed the hand seals. Shadow clone technique. 2 shadow clones sprang up. You can enter total concentration breathing now. Training begins in 5 seconds. 5, 4. Flame breathing. Total concentration breathing. Obito and Shisui activated their breathing states. Obito opened his Sharingan, his eyes crimson, 2 black tomoe spinning. 2, 1. Training begins. Mu Yue's clones rushed them, attacking separately. Obito, using Sharingan to track motion, pulled shuriken from his pouch and flung a scatter to distract the clone. It didn't work. The clone used wind release to blow the shuriken back, forcing Obito to dodge the returning blades and slowing him down. Before he could recover, the clone's finger tapped his forehead with a sharp, light touch. That's 2 problems, the clone said, almost amused. Obito cursed. He'd miscalculated. He should have focused on running. He considered trusting his Sharingan outright and dodging head-on. Concentrating on the clone's hands, he felt he could see the trajectory, and for a moment thought he might make it. The clone's finger brushed his head again, this time from the side, just as he committed to the dodge. He froze. Damn! It was so close, he thought. He wanted another try, but another mistake was 2 more problems. He ran. Shisui had similar trouble. The trees limited his sprinting room, and he too was tagged. He couldn't stand the idea of accumulating extra problems, so he slotted his Sharingan in and tried to find the rhythm. Even then, the clone's movements were just a hair faster than his dodging speed. He realized Mu Yue was deliberately keeping it that way, to pressure them into breaking through. Understanding that, Shisui put distance between himself and the clone and tried to conserve himself. The 6 minutes ended. Mu Yue called the results. Obito was hit 25 times, dodged 0 times. That's 50 problems from hits, plus the 10% no-dodge penalty, 55 problems. Obito felt his vision blur. 55 problems. The idea made him stagger. Shisui was hit 21 times, dodged 0. That's 42 plus 10%, 46 problems, Mu Yue continued. Shisui exhaled, frustrated. He hadn't managed a single successful dodge and was unhappy with himself. He was Mu Yue's first and strongest disciple and expected more. Mu Yue only smiled. He had kept something hidden, transparent world, which, without a breakthrough in their breathing, made dodging near impossible. He had also gone easier on them than he could have. After 5 minutes, their stamina had dropped a lot, and most of the hits came in the final minute. If he'd attacked early while they were fresh, it would have been obvious he'd gone too easy. Rest a little, then back to normal training. There'll be another session like this the day after tomorrow. Work hard, Mu Yue said kindly. Another one the day after tomorrow. Obito groaned inwardly as if more exam papers were piling on his shoulders. He vowed to strengthen his breathing technique quickly. After his short recovery, Obito devoted himself completely to flame breathing. He tried to hold total concentration breathing even when near exhaustion, pressing the technique until his stamina was drained. Shisui trained just as hard. He was determined to at least dodge once. Both pushed until they could barely stand, cycling between holding breathing technique to total exhaustion, resting, and repeating. Later, as they slumped under a tree, Rin came over with a worried look. "Obito, are you okay? Today's your birthday. Are you sure it's okay to push this hard?" Obito blinked, suddenly remembering. "Oh, right, it's my birthday." He'd spent the day worrying about problems and had almost forgotten. "I'll be fine after a rest," he assured her. At dinner, Mu Yue gathered all the disciples at Obito's house to celebrate his birthday. 227, Mu Yue's gift. How rare. It's so lively today. Obito's grandmother chuckled as she looked around at the crowd gathered to celebrate his birthday. "Hello, my name is Hayate Mugetsu, and I am Obito's teacher." Mu Yue smiled and greeted her politely. "Grandma, Mu Yue-sensei is the reason my grades went up so fast." "He's an amazing teacher," Obito piped up from the side. "You've truly troubled Mu Yue-sensei then. Let me pour you a cup of tea," his grandmother said, rising to head for the kettle. "Grandma, stay seated. I'll do it." Obito nimbly poured tea for everyone, even Kakashi. "Obito must have given you a lot of worry, Mu Yue-sensei. I watched him grow up. He does sometimes mess up, but it's never intentional. He's very kind-hearted," Grandma said with a smile, eyes squinting in fondness. "It's fine. Obito works hard and is indeed kind-hearted. He's a student I'm proud of," Mu Yue replied, smiling as he lifted his cup. Before he went mad, Obito had indeed been warm-hearted. "Grandma?" Obito blurted. What did she mean? Does sometimes mess up? He was perfectly reliable. I remember when Obito was 3 years old, he was still... "Grandma, did you forget the clothes you hung outside? Let's go get them before it rains." Cold sweat broke out across Obito's forehead as he cut her off. If she started telling that story, he'd automatically freeze up and wish he could sink into the earth. "It seems I did forget." Grandma paused and realized she had indeed left something hanging out. "You stay and chat with your teacher and friends, Obito. I'll go get them." Obito wanted to help, but Grandma insisted, so he sat back down and continued the conversation, breathing a little easier. "What exactly happened when he was 3? Metkai asked, stroking his chin in obvious curiosity. "Nothing, really. I just hadn't learned to write yet," Obito answered casually. "I always felt Obito and his grandma had a very warm relationship," Rin Nohara said softly. "Hey, Grandma raised me," Obito said, scratching his head and smiling foolishly. Kakashi pressed at the unanswered thread about age 3, but since it was Obito's birthday, he let the topic go for now. Shisui stayed quiet, feeling the edge of a different kind of loss. He had no living parents or grandparents to reminisce with. "Obito, want to guess the gifts everyone brought you?" Mu Yue asked with a smile, noticing the quiet from Shisui and Kakashi. The group had seen more than its share of hard luck. 4 of them had lost both parents. Guy had a father but no mother, and only Rin still had both parents. "Guy, yours should be a bodysuit," Obito guessed first, no contest. "As expected, Obito. You actually guessed it," Metkai said, surprised and delighted. "Because you always give them," Kakashi muttered. Ever since they'd met, Guy had always worn that green bodysuit. When he grew taller, he just switched to a larger size. "Is that so?" Guy rubbed his head, pleased. Obito moved on. "Rin, did you bring flowers you grew?" "No," Rin shook her head. "A handmade craft?" "Nope." Rin smiled and shook her head again. "Forget it, I'll wait to see it," Obito said, scratching his head. "Shisui, is your gift training related?" "No," Shisui replied. A notebook of cultivation notes? Obito tried again, since Shisui was a genius. No, if it were that, you should just ask Mu Yue-sensei, Shisui said, smiling faintly. Obito's guesses kept missing. Kakashi, yours must be training-related. It's not, Kakashi said calmly. Obito's brain itched. Kakashi and Shisui were supposed to be pragmatic. Why were his guesses so off? Mu Yue chuckled. Aren't you going to guess mine? No, that feels impossible. I'll leave it a surprise, Obito admitted, though he grew even more curious. Dinner came next. Grandma said guests didn't need to help, but Mu Yue persuaded her to let him cook. He took charge while the others pitched in. Kakashi prepared ingredients, the rest washed veggies and dishes. I didn't expect Sensei to be such a good cook, Grandma declared after the first bite. If Obito learned even a third of your skill, I wouldn't worry about him not finding a wife. It truly is wonderful to have someone like Mu Yue-sensei cook. Every meal would be a joy, Rin said, smiling as she ate. Obito, learn this. Obito thought desperately. He silently begged Mu Yue to add cooking to his training plan. Eating Mu Yue-sensei's food makes me feel my youth burning even more, Metkai said, giving a thumbs up. Kakashi, who had some skill in the kitchen, merely nodded in approval. Mu Yue's cooking tasted almost like a refined technique. Shisui even called it delightful every time. As long as everyone likes it, Mu Yue said, smiling gently. His cooking was a powerful impression maker, more useful at times than a master skill. After clearing the table and setting out the cake, they moved on to gifts. A custom-made bodysuit, specially tailored for you. Training in this will double your results, Metkai announced, producing a green bodysuit similar to his own. Happy birthday. Thanks, Guy. I'll cherish it, Obito said with a smile, though the blinding green made him hesitate a little. Rin handed a folded piece of paper to Obito. Here, happy birthday. He opened it to find a hand-drawn picture of recent play, him and Kakashi competing to catch fish and throwing shuriken. Rin, why didn't you draw yourself? He asked, puzzled to see only him and Kakashi. Because that day, you and Kakashi were so focused on playing, you forgot about me, Rin said, pouting a little. Oh, Obito floundered, then noticed Rin smiling. She placed her left hand to her mouth and produced a small palm-sized sculpture. I'm not angry, I was joking. This is the real gift. Obito, aren't you trying to become Hokage? I believe you will, so I made you a rock statue already. The little sculpture captured his smile perfectly. Obito's confusion melted into joy. The earth-colored statuette seemed to blush. Rin, thank you. I'll take good care of it. He carefully put the statue and the drawing away. Obito, happy birthday. Shisui handed him a silver kunai. Isn't this the one I gave you before, Shisui? You didn't have to do that. It had meaning to me already, Obito said, shaking his head. That kunai had been from the first time he won first place, with Kakashi competing and Rin watching. Giving it away once had been hard, and reclaiming it felt unnecessary. It's not the same one, Shisui explained. I got this one for taking first place in the competition. The youth ninjutsu competition isn't just once a year? Obito asked, surprised. Maybe it's held more often now. It's twice a year. I remembered you liked that kunai, so I entered and got first, Shisui said casually. Obito couldn't help but grin at how matter-of-fact Shisui made it sound, like shopping for prizes rather than competing. That's thoughtful. I really like it. Thank you. Now we both have first-place prize kunai, proof that two Uchiha geniuses share a bond, Obito said, clenching his fist in triumph. Kakashi came forward, expression unreadable. Happy birthday, he said, handing over a camera. Obito's eyes lit up. He'd wanted a camera to record mission sites in everyday life. I saw it on sale and bought it because I didn't know what else to give, Kakashi added, as if explaining his motives. Obito wasn't sure if Kakashi had planned it earlier or not. Either way, he treasured it. Mu Yue stepped up last. My gift, he said, smiling, and produced a white kunai with a dragon pattern engraved on the blade. Obito took it. The shape was a standard kunai, but the finish outshone anything ordinary. Intricate flying dragon patterns ran along both sides of the blade. Carved with such detail the dragon's expressions seemed alive. Obito was engraved on both sides of the blade, and the Uchiha crest was etched into the handle. Mu Yue-sensei, you didn't have to. You spend so much time training us already, Obito said, suddenly solemn. He knew how much effort must go into forging something like this. It's fine. I used a shadow clone to forge it. There's always a lot to do, Mu Yue said lightly. Hearing that made Obito even more moved. He knew the cost of using shadow clones, the fatigue still returned to the original body. Mu Yue had put his energy into this for Obito. Mu Yue then took out 4 photographs and handed them to Obito. You said you regretted not bringing a camera on our last mission. I managed to get some pictures. Now you can record whatever you want. The photos had been taken by one of Mu Yue's shadow clones in the Land of Rivers. They showed the same landscape, empty of people, only scenery. Mu Yue-sensei, thank you so much. I love it. Obito couldn't help himself. He hugged Mu Yue, eyes misting. The beautifully forged kunai and those 4 photos made Obito feel how much Mu Yue cared. He felt grateful, humbled, and more determined than ever. 228. 6 Paths Tin Staff. You gave your disciple a beautifully made kunai you forged yourself, and your disciple was so grateful it triggered a massive bonus reward, the Rokudo Shakujo. The bonus surprised Mu Yue. It wasn't a skill at all, but a physical weapon. He hadn't much experience with long-handled arms, but he figured that if the staff was solid enough, and he applied enough strength, basic use wouldn't be a problem. Besides, Obito's emotions had been running high all day. If he hadn't hit that earlier peak, a perfect grade reward would probably have been easy to get today. Make a wish and blow out the candles, Mu Yue said gently, patting Obito's head. Obito wiped the moisture from his eyes, walked up to the cake, clasped his hands, closed his eyes, and wished silently. If wishes can really come true, I want my 10 wishes to happen. My first wish is that this happiness lasts my whole life. My second wish is that Grandma stays healthy and lives a long life. My third wish is to be someone Rin admires. My fourth wish. He mulled over whether his 10th should be for 10 more wishes or 100 more. The quiet took longer than expected. Then my 10th wish is that all the previous wishes will definitely come true. Obito finished, opened his eyes, and smiled. I'm done. Let's eat cake. You sounded pretty serious, Obito. You must have thought about them for a long time, Rin Nohara said softly, smiling. Heh, not really, Obito chuckled, scratching his head. He hadn't been planning each wish. He had been wishing them. Obito's grandmother watched them with a pleased, relieved smile. Raising him alone, she had always worried about his future. She didn't expect him to become a famous ninja. She only wanted him to grow up happy. If she could hold a great-grandchild before she died, that would be a blessing. Because the elder was present, the party ended early to avoid tiring her. Once everyone left, Mu Yue slipped into the forest alone to test his new prize. With a thought, a black staff appeared in his hand. The system's physical rewards could be summoned back from the system space at will. He examined the Rokudo Shakujo, a simple black rod with a moon design on one end and a sun on the other. First, Mu Yue checked its hardness. He centered his breathing into a rock-breathing total concentration state and fired a finger gun at the staff. The strike cracked the ground beside it, but the Rokudo Shakujo remained unmarked, unchanged from the moment he'd pulled it out. Satisfied, he pushed further, opening the 3rd gate of the 8 gates and activating the rock-breathing mark. His aura swelled, the gust from it set nearby, leaves trembling. Then he wrapped himself in pitch-black armament haki and unleashed another finger gun. The explosion was massive. The earth collapsed for dozens of meters around him, dust billowed, and nearby trees were flattened by the aftershock. He immediately closed the gates and the mark, then used wind release to blow the dust away. When the dust settled, the Rokudo Shakujo lay pure and unmarred, not even a scratch. Mu Yue was impressed. That last strike had been far from his maximum, but it had still produced devastating force. Yet the staff had taken no damage. He considered testing it with the lightning breathing mark plus armament haki, an attack that would cost some 35,000 chakra, but he decided against it. That much chakra felt risky and would make too much of a commotion. Next, he tested the staff's chakra conduction. He infused lightning release chakra into it. He could feel chakra within the staff, but no visible lightning emanated from it. He tried fire release, same result. No flames appeared. Strange, but lack of flashy effects didn't mean lack of ability. He compared the impact of strikes with and without chakra in the staff, and found that when chakra was injected, the craters produced were much larger. The more chakra he fed it, the greater the destructive power. In short, the Rokudo Shakujo consumed chakra heavily. Mu Yue had noticed another trait during those tria, Ellis, and wanted to verify it. He created a shadow clone to assist. Lightning release, false darkness. The clone concentrated chakra in its throat and spat a tightly focused lightning spear toward him. False darkness had two modes, a concentrated point attack, the more powerful choice when a hit was certain, and a wide sweeping attack that covered more ground at reduced strength. The clone chose the concentrated strike. Mu Yue twirled the Rokudo Shakujo with his right hand, pumped a large amount of chakra into it, and met the incoming lightning. The terrifying spear collapsed on contact, its power instantly drained, and it was dispelled by the staff's strike. The clone's armament haki, poured into the attack and consuming much of its chakra, was broken through by the chakra-infused staff, and the shadow clone dissolved into white smoke. Could this Rokudo Shakujo be a transformed truth-seeking ball? Mu Yue wondered. A truth-seeking ball's hallmark is nullifying ninjutsu, and when he infused the staff with chakra, it could indeed break and dissipate ninjutsu. That fit. But there was a problem. If it were a truth-seeking ball, a shadow clone should have vanished on touch, not only when the staff was poured full of chakra. To test this, Mu Yue touched an uncharged staff to a clone. Nothing happened. Without chakra, the staff was just an extremely hard poker. So it wasn't a truth-seeking ball in the pure sense. It needed chakra fed into it to dispel jutsu. Mu Yue decided not to overthink it. Whatever its exact classification, the Rokudo Shakujo was both tougher and more capable than a high-purity chakra blade. A chakra blade only extended a blade's reach. This staff could directly dissipate ninjutsu when charged. The only real drawback was its conspicuous look. It resembled the staff held by the Six-Path Sage in widely circulated portraits. Wielding it in public while showing off super strength would invite rumors of reincarnation as the Six-Path Sage. He put the Rokudo Shakujo back into the system space. It was a powerful weapon with future potential, but awkward to use right now. Mu Yue's personal strength was already enough to handle most opponents. For the few exceptions, tough fighters like the Third Raikage with his lightning release body technique, his raw output was sufficient. In the end, using chakra to power a weapon wasn't always better than reserving that chakra for unexpected situations. The ninja world rarely favored fair fights. It was always about doing whatever it took to survive. After finishing his tests, Mu Yue used earth release to level the ground, but the trees he'd flattened stayed down. He didn't know wood release yet. Fortunately, the forest was vast. The damage from his training was negligible in the big picture. 229. Meaning of learning. Happy times are always short-lived. That thought came to Obito on the morning after his birthday. Since it was your birthday yesterday, I didn't give you the training problems, Mu Yue said with a smile as he handed 2 test papers to Obito. But today we'll start. Obito felt a little dizzy at the sight of the crisp, black-printed questions. Actually, I made a mistake when I registered my birthday. Today's the real one, he muttered without thinking. Smack! Mu Yue tapped Obito's forehead with a precise finger. Even if every one of the next 365 days were your birthday, you'd still have to do these problems. You have an exam at school in 10 days. Do you want to go back with theory scores in the teens? Ugh, we don't even have classes this term, so why do we still have exams? Obito complained. Mu Yue reminded him that interns still return to school for exams. Perhaps it's to test your internship results, Mu Yue said. When the school posts the results, they'll include internship performance too. How many missions you completed will be recorded alongside your score. Metkai and I will definitely be first, Obito beamed. The registration ninja at the mission hall had said other intern teams could only take D-rank missions. D-rank rarely upgraded, so others wouldn't have C or higher. But Obito and Metkai already had 2 A-rank missions and a B-rank on their record. There's no problem being first in mission quality, but mission records won't add points to the theory score, Mu Yue reminded him. Obito's internship record would look spectacular, but if his theory score stayed in the teens or 20s, it would be a poor showing. You have 3 days to finish these, Mu Yue set the deadline. When you're done, come to me for explanations. He handed Shisui a different test afterward. Obito's problems focused on knowledge from ninja school. Shisui's were history and politics, not just rote dates, but essays. After reading this material, explain how the advent of the ninja village era changed the world and why. Combine Uchiha and Konoha histories to describe their conflict. Those questions demanded broad thinking. Mu Yue didn't expect an outsider to solve the Uchiha-Konoha conflict alone. The clan itself would need to cooperate. He wanted his two disciples, Obito and Shisui, to be stronger than in the original timeline and to think more deeply. The point of the problems wasn't punishment or a simple way to raise theory scores. It was to deepen knowledge and expand thought. Shisui didn't take it lightly at all once he glanced at his paper. What had seemed like two ordinary tests were packed with demanding, thought-provoking questions. He realized why Obito and Metkai had been so reluctant to face problem-solving training. Presented with 100 of those problems at once, even he would struggle. Mu Yue gave him the same 3-day limit, with the option to request installments if he needed more time, though that would increase the total number of problems. They put the papers away and resumed their constant state breathing technique training, keeping total concentration breathing through basic exercises until sweat soaked their clothes and blurred their vision. Obito pushed himself straight to the limit. If there's another problem set tomorrow, I have to skip once and take fewer problems. Otherwise, I'll end up doing installments, he told himself. That fear of installments drove him harder. He could grit his teeth and finish 55 problems in 3 days, but if another 55 arrived the next day, the workload would snowball. Kakashi watched Obito during a break and was surprised by his intensity. Is he training like that just to keep me from catching up? He wondered. He couldn't sit still. Though tired, Kakashi began practicing lightning breathing, promising himself he'd add another 2.5 hours to his training that night. No one at Mu Yue's place dawdled. Everyone trained seriously, and Kakashi didn't want to fall behind. Everyone. As youth is so passionate today, Metkai said, and pushed himself harder. In the middle of his excitement, he realized he'd finally trained the second gate properly. He'd opened the second gate, the gate of healing, under normal control, not by force. Gate of opening, open. Gate of healing, open, he cried. Switching to rock breathing and total concentration breathing, he pumped chakra into his body and felt power surge. This is strength, he grinned, clenching his fist. He broke into a sprint. With the second gate's power enhancing him, he launched a devastating noon leopard-style kick at a huge boulder. Boom! The rock shattered into dust and fragments flew everywhere. Everyone turned. He can do that normally now, Kakashi said, impressed. Previously that move had meant severe self-harm. Now Metkai could use it in a regular state. Shisui, who had never seen him combine total concentration breathing with the second gate, felt surprised by how strong he'd become. Obito's eyelid twitched when he remembered Metkai had once said he wanted to fight him. If Metkai used the 8 gates plus breathing, while Obito couldn't activate his Sharingan, he might lose. After a full day of training, Obito trudged home exhausted. Passing a stall where he and Rin Nohara had eaten before, he decided to buy some tuanzi to replenish his energy. Obito, you look tired, a familiar voice called. He turned to find Shiranui Genma, a senbon in his mouth, with Ebisu wearing sunglasses beside him. Just a bit tired from training, Obito said, sitting with them and popping a skewer into his mouth. Who's your intern teacher? Is the training that intense? Genma asked. It's teacher Mu Yue. He's not intense. I'm the one who pushes myself. If I want to get stronger, I can't avoid training, Obito replied. Teacher Mu Yue? Lucky you, Genma admired. Anyone taught by Mu Yue knew he was on another level. After training with him, your strength must have jumped. You must be solidly first in practical combat. Metkai can't beat you now, right? Metkai in my class and he's interning with Mu Yue too, Obito said after a moment. He wasn't sure he could beat Metkai. Mu Yue didn't let him use his Sharingan casually. If he couldn't rely on it and Metkai used the 8 gates in breathing, the match would be dangerous. Oh, so Metkai's interning with you, Genma said awkwardly. That'll be a fierce fight. I'm looking forward to it. How's your internship? Obito asked after another bite. It feels like class time turned into odd jobs, Genma complained. catching cats, finding dogs, picking up trash, far more rather sit in class. Abisu agreed. They weren't satisfied with their duties. Obito straightened a little and lifted his chin. I think it's fine, he said. Compared to them, his internship felt exciting. He'd met a Raikage candidate and, with his companions, had helped defeat a Jonin from another village. Genma sighed, half admiring, half envious. Obito smiled modestly and finished his tuanzi, wishing he'd had the chance to tell them about those A-rank missions, but saving the story for another time. 230. Fire and Heart. Damn it, I don't want to do these problems, but if I don't, my score will be awful. I'll be embarrassed. That night, Obito stared at the 2 test booklets on his desk and felt his head start to throb. 55 problems in total. If he wanted to finish them in 3 days, he'd have to do at least 18 problems a day. With a sigh, he formed the hand signs. Shadow clone technique. 2 shadow clones sprang into being. You 2 play rock, paper, scissors, Obito said. Loser takes a test paper. He picked up a booklet and a pen and pretended to work. For Obito, getting a clone to do the problems or doing them himself were both miserable. Doing them himself was a long, steady agony. Letting a clone do them meant a brief, intense pain. He chose the short pain. To make sure the clones cooperated, he made an extra one for the contest and sat there pretending to study. The shadow clone technique does have its uses, he muttered, doodling a chibi Rin Nohara on the scratch paper. Rock, paper, scissors? Keep the papers. I'm not doing any problems, one clone said flatly. Obito blinked. Where had he gone wrong? The other clone spoke up. You think I don't know what you're thinking? Remember, I'm also Uchiha Obito. Great. The 2 of them, both him, were conspiring to slack off together. He couldn't help but say, You're both me. Hurry up and help with the problems. But we're shadow clones right now, the clone replied casually. It won't be me who's embarrassed later. Even worse, the clones didn't just refuse to help. One was reading the novels Obito had bought. The other was eating his snacks. While the main body was stuck with the problems, the clones were enjoying themselves. Frustrated, Obito activated total concentration breathing, snatched the novel and snacks, and tried to get back to work. What are you doing? I was getting to the good part, shouted the novel-reading clone. Looking for a fight? The snack-eating clone growled and charged. The novel reader, not wanting to miss out, charged too. Obito punched and kicked them until they dissipated. He hadn't given them much chakra. They had no real combat ability. He enjoyed the scuffle, then froze as the memory feedback flooded back. Every punch and kick came back into his own mind. He lay sprawled on the bed and cursed, Damn the shadow clone technique. This is useless. After some more writhing, Obito got up, sat at his desk, and began doing the problems. Play was play, fun was fun, but Mu Yue's assignments had to be finished. The next day Obito went to the south border forest for training as usual. 2.5 hours of armament hockey practice came first, then the constant state breathing technique. Mu Yue smiled as he asked, You haven't forgotten the rules, right? Same as last time. I haven't forgotten, Obito nodded with a heavy look. Each hit meant 2 extra problems, and the worst part was that if he failed to dodge even once, an extra 10% would be added. He resolved not to let this session turn into last time's disaster. He noticed Shisui had also been hit many times, but his problem total was lower, proof there was still room for improvement. Teacher Mu Yue, what if I don't get hit at all, if I dodge every attack? Obito asked. Mu Yue thought a moment. Then the undone problems get offset, or the problems added later will be reduced. That was an enticing carrot. It was very hard to achieve, since Mu Yue steadily increased the intensity. Unless they made a big jump in power quickly, dodging every attack was nearly impossible. Obito's eyes brightened at the idea. A few clean sessions like that would be like a handful of get-out-of-jail-free cards. Start! Mu Yue's 2 shadow clones moved. Shisui and Obito entered total concentration breathing and sprinted off. Having learned last time, Obito didn't try to stand toe-to-toe. He maneuvered as much as he could, only attempting to dodge in place when there was no other option. Always just a hair off. Come on, go faster, he cursed inwardly. No matter how hard he pushed, Mu Yue still landed hits. Time ticked toward the 5-minute mark. Maintaining high-focus breathing for 5 minutes sapped even total concentration's sharpness. Obito's Sharingan picked out Mu Yue's figure closing in. He could see the trainer's finger approaching. It seemed inevitable he'd be tapped. "Move, body!" Obito roared to himself. The tap wouldn't hurt physically, but it would crush his spirit. "How can I be only this strong?" he muttered. Flame breathing, total concentration breathing. He poured everything into his breathing. His body surged with power, and he barely slipped past Mu Yue's finger. The trainer's fingertip passed less than a centimeter from his head. Obito grinned in surprise. Dodging that attack wasn't just 2 fewer problems, it avoided the 10% penalty as well. Mu Yue was pleased. He'd expected it would take until the 4th session before Obito could dodge, yet Obito managed it in the 2nd. When time ended, Mu Yue tallied the results. Shisui was hit 19 times, dodged 0, and needs to do 42 problems. Obito was hit 19 times, dodged once, and needs to do 36 problems. Obito couldn't hide his joy. 36 problems were still a lot, but far better than the original 55. The difference between dodging and not dodging is huge, he thought. Shisui looked surprised. He had understood the nature of the training from the start. Without a breakthrough, dodging Mu Yue's attacks was impossible. Obito had managed that breakthrough in just the 2nd session, and Shisui felt the pressure. Obito had a higher-level Sharingan and stronger flame breathing. His own advantages were ninjutsu and the body flicker technique. Pride burned in Shisui. He was Mu Yue's first disciple. He couldn't be overtaken. The set of problems has a 3-day deadline. The next training session is in 3 days, Mu Yue said. The pace was intense. The initial frequency was meant to provide pressure. Since there wasn't a birthday this time, Mu Yue simply handed out the assignments. Shisui went home and plunged into training with determination. The special training had given him a deep sense of crisis. This time, by results, he had lost to Obito. He cycled through exhaustion and rest, training until 11:30 at night, then washed and went to bed. In the following days, Shisui kept up the high-intensity routine. On the morning before the 3rd session, he made progress, not in breathing, but in armament haki. He pictured an invisible armor on his body and threw a punch. A large tree shattered with a shower of wood chips. Is this armament haki? He wondered, looking at his small, fair fist. The power was unusual. He hadn't used chakra reinforcement. This was something different. Yes, Mu Yue said. He checked Shisui's armament haki proficiency, 20 points. Shisui tried again and failed to reproduce it. On the 3rd attempt, he succeeded and brought another tree down. You're not very proficient yet, Mu Yue explained, but hold on to that feeling and practice. You'll be able to use it reliably. Shisui concentrated on that sensation, but it was elusive. He punched repeatedly and still couldn't consistently invoke armament haki. Nearby, Obito and Kakashi watched. Both had started haki practice too, but compared to Shisui's edge, they were still clueless. Mu Yue had them focus on different things. Because Shisui had broken through, Mu Yue paused his breathing training for the day and had him spend the time honing haki. That night, Shisui kept practicing breathing on his own. He was the only one at home, so he wouldn't disturb anyone. As he rested between drills, a worry nagged him. Why was Obito's breathing progress so much faster? They trained at the same times under the same teacher, yet Obito always advanced faster. Shisui couldn't see proficiency the way Mu Yue could, but he practiced flame breathing too and felt the gap widening. Since he'd first gotten started, he hadn't made much headway. If they fought using only breathing techniques, Shisui was certain he'd lose to Obito. Flame breathing, the step of comprehension, he thought. That pivotal insight had launched Obito into rapid progress. Obito's heart holds a fervent flame of helpfulness, he reflected. What flame do I have in mine? Breathing technique didn't improve because of good deeds. This was flame breathing, not merit breathing. Yet Obito's sincere eagerness to help others seemed to fuel his progress. Shisui suspected this was part of the reason he lagged, but he couldn't identify what inner flame might exist in himself. He couldn't figure it out that night. Swept up in restless thoughts, he didn't fall asleep until after 2 in the morning. Morning came anyway, and the forest training began as usual. Mu Yue didn't change the schedule. 2.5 hours of armament haki, then breathing training. Training start, Mu Yue announced. 2 Mu Yue shadow clones charged Shisui and Obito. To avoid interference, the two ran in opposite directions through the south border forest. Perhaps because he hadn't slept well or because his mind was unsettled, Shisui's results were worse than before. Shisui, 46 problems. Obito, 34 problems. Shisui sighed. He'd felt it during training. He'd been off. Obito's eyes gleamed. It wasn't a massive drop, but it was improvement for the second session in a row. Obito, you can start your training. Shisui, come here for a moment, Mu Yue said. He'd dealt with this many times. Usually a private talk meant there was a mental issue that needed sorting out. I'm sorry, Mu Yue-sensei. I'm just not in good form today, Uchiha Shisui said, apologetic. He felt he was letting Mu Yue down after all his careful guidance. Mu Yue smiled. It's all right. Everyone has off days. You seem worried, he added, peering into Shisui's eyes. Do you want to tell me what's on your mind? Looking at Mu Yue, Shisui could feel the teacher's genuine concern. He had already told himself the truth once. There was no point hiding it now. Ever since I learned the breathing technique, I haven't been progressing much. Obito doesn't seem to have that problem. Thinking back to the moment I first comprehended the flame, I don't have the same burning passion Obito does. Maybe flame breathing just isn't right for me. Mu Yue reached out, ruffled Shisui's hair, and smiled. I'm certain you're suited to flame breathing. Obito had an exceptional affinity for it. But before he began training, his advantage over Shisui had been only minor, at most a dozen points of proficiency. That showed Shisui's compatibility was not poor. Obito's current lead of nearly 90 points came from several factors. His natural compatibility was near maximum, and he went on missions and fought in real combat, which accelerated his progress. It wasn't a slight against Obito. Early on, the difference in training efficiency between Shisui and Obito was clear. The results Shisui could achieve in a single day might take Obito 10 days or more. When Mu Yue had first taken Shisui as a disciple, Shisui was only 6 and not particularly advanced. Yet training alongside Mu Yue widened the gap between him and both Obito and Metkai. That situation had lasted a long time. Given that history, Shisui's feelings made sense. A technique he considered important wasn't advancing as fast as a former dead last he used to leave behind, and that rival was now overtaking him. Shisui was precocious, calmer, and stronger than many peers, but he was still only 6 years old. In Mu Yue's previous life, kids that age were just starting first grade. Self-doubt in such circumstances was understandable, but with the breathing technique, doubt is fatal. Once you begin to question yourself, the power of the breathing weakens. That was why Mu Yue felt the breathing technique had a bit of yin release in it. Its strength leaned toward the idealistic and spiritual. That also explained why Obito and Metkai often broke through in battle. Both had rock-solid confidence and unshakable belief. Obito's passion is indeed powerful, Mu Yue continued, but that doesn't mean your heart lacks flame. He regarded Shisui earnestly. Shisui, don't you have things you want to do? Dreams? Remember what's in your heart. Dreams. The word made Shisui drift back. He had been an orphan, but never lacked for material comfort. His father had been an excellent Uchiha Jonin, and his grandfather, Uchiha Kagami, had nearly reached a high post in Konoha. Kagami had been a famed Jonin, praised even by the second Hokage. People said Kagami was the successor to the Will of Fire, a great Uchiha whose life had been dedicated to Konoha. Some said that if not for a tragedy, the Uchiha's fate might have been different. Shisui wanted to be a ninja for reasons tied to that history. After learning the story of the Uchiha and feeling Konoha villagers' rejection of his clan, he resolved to become a ninja like his grandfather and finish what Kagami had left undone. Why should people be judged for being Uchiha? Shisui wanted to change that. I want to change the Uchiha's situation. I want everyone in Konoha to live together in peace, Shisui said, looking Mu Yue straight in the eye. That's a noble goal. Work toward that, and I can feel the flame inside you, Mu Yue said, smiling. He tapped Shisui's chest with a finger. You're kind and righteous, Shisui. Keep this feeling and never doubt your dream. Mu Yue couldn't know exactly how the original Uchiha Shisui had been, but the Shisui before him now was undoubtedly righteous and kind, if a bit more introverted and restrained than Obito. I'll think you can't achieve that dream. No, Shisui answered firmly. Where hesitation might have crept in before, wondering if he could do what his celebrated grandfather could not, Mu Yue's confidence steadied him. I won't waver. Enter total concentration breathing. I'm going to attack, Mu Yue said suddenly. He pressed his two fingers together and flicked them toward Shisui. Shisui instantly concentrated his breathing and dodged, barely moving, and he hadn't even had time to activate his Sharingan. I did it. Surprise lit his face as he stared at Mu Yue's fingers, less than a centimeter from him. Not long ago, he couldn't have dodged Mu Yue's strike, even with his Sharingan. Yes, you dodged it, Mu Yue said, withdrawing his hand with a smile. But this wasn't special training, so dodging it won't count toward your practice quota. It's fine, Shisui said, still breathless with disbelief. He had broken through the breathing technique. Even if he had to answer 100 more drills, he'd be happy. Then he thought of the drills and tempered that enthusiasm. 100 seemed excessive. 20 more would do. He would gladly endure that. The breathing technique isn't set in stone, Mu Yue said more seriously. If one day you find a better way, you can adapt it. The best form is the one that suits you, but you must remain firm in your dreams and beliefs. Shisui mentally etched Mu Yue's words into his heart. Thank you, Mu Yue-sensei. I'll hold fast to my beliefs. Go train, Mu Yue said with a smile. A pep talk usually did wonders. Motivated, Shisui nodded and threw himself back into practice. By February 20th, 4 of Mu Yue's 5 disciples were still students at the Ninja Academy and had exams to take, so he gave them all the day off, including Kakashi. Mu Yue also went to the ninja school himself for the first time in a long while. Since taking on interns, his main self hadn't set foot there. 232. Shocking fact. The first day back at the Ninja Academy began with a theory exam. Before it started, the students who hadn't gone on internships surrounded the interns, buzzing with questions. Obito, what do intern ninjas actually do? Is it like being a regular ninja? One classmate asked, eyes wide. Obito thought for a moment, then answered, pretty similar. We get assigned missions, and when we're not out on a mission, we train with our teacher. Each mission's different. We visit different places, see different scenery. He liked missions. Even when things had gotten dangerous, they'd managed to get through by working together. The pride that followed, a hard-earned success, was a thrill. Hearing that, the other students reacted with shock and envy. Most of them had never left Konoha. They even went abroad, murmured several voices. Intern ninjas can go abroad? Too bad I wasn't chosen. We'll be there soon, Obito added. In 2 months, when we pass the graduation exam, we'll be proper ninjas. A few students began to dream aloud about life on missions. Others wondered what foreign lands were like. Which countries did you go to? How are they different from the land of fire? Someone asked. Before Obito could answer, Uchiha Tekka, who'd been listening, spoke up with disbelief. Internships are only for D-rank missions, right? D-rank jobs are inside the village, picking up trash, catching cats. How could you go abroad? Tekka had interned before, and his team had done nothing but menial tasks. Another student who'd been on an internship confirmed, yeah, we only did odd jobs, farm work, cleanup. The registration ninja said interns can only accept D-rank missions. There were 34th grade interns altogether, 3 to 4 from each class. Class 2 had 4 of them. Seeing 2 classmates contradict Obito, the rest of the room turned to him with puzzled, and some with suspicious, faces. Obito had done well this year, but his earlier records made some think he might be exaggerating. Obito didn't get angry. He nodded and admitted, generally, intern teams can only do D-rank missions. Tekka relaxed a little. Obito wasn't completely out of touch then, but students still wanted an explanation. Then why did you say you went abroad, Obito? Someone pressed. Obito's smile got a little smug. We're not a normal intern team. The third Hokage saw that our team was unusually strong and specially allowed us to take C-rank missions. That name, Hokage-sama, stopped everyone. Tekka's mouth dropped open. A special permission from the Hokage? It sounded even more far-fetched than an intern going abroad. But hearing both claims together made it sound possible. So how many C-rank missions did you complete? How many countries did you visit? Someone asked, eyes sparkling. Obito answered honestly. 2 countries, once to the land of rice fields, twice to the land of rivers. As for C-rank missions, we technically haven't completed any. The students blinked. What? No way all the missions failed. They didn't fail, Obito said quickly. We accepted 3 C-rank missions, but each time something unexpected happened and the missions were upgraded. They were C rank when we took them, but by the time we handed them in, they'd been upgraded to B rank or even A rank. Most of the class didn't fully understand the rank system, but mission upgrades sounded impressive. They murmured in awe. Tekka and the other interns who knew more were suspicious. A and B rank missions were serious business. A rank especially was rare and dangerous. If Obito hadn't mentioned those ranks, they might have believed him more. Tekka considered calling him out, then decided against it. Explaining everything to prove Obito wrong would be tedious, and some might just call him jealous. Better to wait until graduation and the mission records were posted. Obito, feeling the admiring looks, kept talking. The land of rivers was different from home, vast deserts that stretched to the horizon, nothing but sand, no green trees. He enjoyed the envy he's at. Abba. He only stopped when the proctor entered and the exam began. Once the tests were distributed, Obito's bravado faded. Seeing black text on white paper made his head ache. After a few questions, he glanced around and saw Metkai bent over his paper. So Guy was actually studying, Obito thought, and that sharpened his focus. When results came out, their mission records would be on display too. Whoever had the lower exam score, him or Guy, was going to be embarrassed. At noon, many interns gathered to trade stories. Obito and Metkai joined the cluster and enjoyed the lively chatter. A ninja's life isn't easy, Shiranui Genma sighed. It's more tiring than school, either doing odd jobs or non-stop training. Yeah, agreed another intern. Newly graduated Jinin seem to get nothing but odd jobs. I wonder how long that lasts. Obito chuckled. I actually like it. Of course you do. You've got teacher Mu Yue, Genma teased, bumping Obito playfully. Obito, you're so lucky. Most of the interns, except Hyuga Homura, had been through Mu Yue's special summer training and knew how different it was from other teachers. Isn't it because you're top of the grade? Ebisu added. You're from the Uchiha clan and you lead the class. Of course you got a top teacher. Then it makes sense Guy interned with you, Genma said. Since the end of last semester, Obito and Metkai had been fighting for first place. Who's your other teammate, Hyuga Homura? Genma asked. Homura had the record to be the third member, first in practical combat and consistently competitive, but both Obito and Guy shook their heads. Not Hyuga? Genma and the nearby students grew more curious. Guy grinned and named someone none of them expected. Kakashi. Kakashi? But didn't he graduate ages ago? He's a chuunin, isn't he? Genma was stunned. Kakashi's name carried weight. They'd all heard of him, even if they hadn't spoken with him. Why would a chuunin be an intern's teammate? Maybe it's just the bond between best friends, Metkai said with a bright smile and a thumbs up. Obito nodded in agreement. Despite the oddity, Kakashi really had been included on their internship team. That's too good, a student exclaimed. Mu Yue as supervising teacher, Kakashi as a chuunin teammate, and you two at the top of the grade. Odd jobs would be beneath you. You guessed right, Obito said lightly. Hokage-sama saw we were too strong and let us take C-rank missions. Nobody challenged him now. The team composition was too impressive. It fit the story. If a chuunin student had been added to a normal intern group, the Hokage's approval would sound fake, but with Mu Yue, Kakashi, Obito, and Guy, it didn't seem impossible. Genma sighed, thinking of his own internship. Makes my 2 months feel like a joke. Tell us about the C-rank missions. What kind of enemies did you face? Someone urged. Obito tried to keep a casual tone. C ranks are mostly escorts, hunting down wild beasts or handling mountain bandits. As for the enemies, it depends on luck. You might run into enemy ninjas. If a jonin gets involved, it usually upgrades to an A rank. With only a chuunin, it's often B rank. Our luck was bad. We ran into jonin twice. Jonin on missions? Twice? The room exploded in disbelief. Jonin were rare and powerful. Encountering them was a huge deal. One intern pointed out the obvious. You met jonin and came back alive? Teacher Mu Yue is only a special jonin. Obito answered seriously. Jonin are strong, but not invincible. If you fight smart, you can beat them. Teacher Mu Yue can handle them. Guy's grin got wider. He remembered vividly how the three of them had fought together. Even opening the second gate and using total concentration, Guy had been pushed to the edge. They had needed Obito's Sharingan and teamwork to get through it. Some remained unconvinced. One intern, whose parents were chuunin, argued that real jonin were extremely rare and required both unmatched skill and achievements. Mu Yue being a teacher didn't necessarily mean he could defeat a jonin in the field. Obito wanted to explain more, but the preparatory bell rang. He said, "Whether you believe it or not, you'll see when the results are out. Guy and I will each have 2 A-rank mission completions, both from those encounters with jonin." Then Obito and Metkai hurried back to class. The doubters felt uneasy. Mission records were published with the exam results, and those numbers would settle the dispute. One skeptical student comforted himself. If Mu Yue were truly that strong, he wouldn't still be teaching at the academy. He'd be out in the field as a jonin. Teaching must be his strength, not fighting, the student thought, and he let his doubts settle back in. The next day, during the practical exam, Mu Yue's main body went to the Class 1, Grade 1 exam site to check on things. Although he hadn't been at the ninja school this semester, he'd been promoted, now vice class leader of the teacher's class. The only people above him in the school were Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Hokage and principal, and Shimono Hisanobu, the class leader and head instructor. While his main body took students on missions, he hadn't abandoned Class 1. Grade 1, he left a shadow clone to handle their lessons. The clone didn't get the teaching skill bonus his main body would, but it did have the knowledge from his mind. Its effectiveness was slightly less than his real self, but still far better than most other teachers. For first-year students who were learning relatively simple things, that was more than enough. Shadow clones were convenient ninjutsu, but the return of fatigue was a problem, so Mu Yue dispelled them regularly to avoid being overwhelmed. "Everyone looks energetic. How did you do on yesterday's exam?" he asked with a smile. "Good morning, Teacher Mu Yue." "I think I did well," Anko replied first, smiling. Kotetsu Hagane answered, "So-so." "I think I did a bit poorly," Izumo Kamizuki admitted. "About the same," Shisui said calmly. Compared to Mu Yue's tests, the ninja school's questions were too easy. Seeing the familiar scene, Mu Yue couldn't help a small smile. He'd gotten much stronger over 2 months, but these students hadn't changed that much. The proctoring teachers who had just arrived smiled and greeted him. Mu Yue watched the first round of battles for Class 1, Grade 1, then left. Their progress had slowed a little compared to last semester, but it was still considerable. He didn't go to Obito's class to watch his match with Metkai. He left a shadow clone to keep an eye on that instead. His main body returned home to the Leaf Village main district to practice sealing technique. He could always watch the Guy Obito fight tomorrow. At home, Mu Yue focused on the 4 symbols sealing. He wasn't learning as fast as he would with Kushina at his side, but it was acceptable. Kushina had left annotations on the scrolls she'd given him. A good teacher helped, but Kushina's relationship with Minato made it awkward for Mu Yue to visit too often. Even though Minato and Kushina weren't married yet, they were dating. If Mu Yue showed up frequently to study, it could be misinterpreted. He trusted Minato, but he couldn't be sure Danzo wouldn't make trouble. What if Danzo saw them and, on a whim, tried to interfere or worse? Even if Mu Yue ignored Danzo, the last thing he wanted was avoidable drama, so he kept visits limited. Mu Yue taught his disciples during the day and spent evenings on sealing technique and developing his breathing technique. By the time he'd worked on 4 symbols sealing enough to reach entry-level proficiency, roughly 150 points, he started trying to stack seals the way Minato had, 2 4 symbols to make an 8 trigram sealing style. It was far harder than he'd expected. Sealing techniques weren't like stacking slices of bread. Placing one on top of another didn't just add effects. If 2 identical seals were applied, the second would overwrite the first. Different seals with similar effects could interfere with each other and even make things worse. Minato must have made significant improvements to the 4 symbols sealing. Otherwise, the 8 trigrams method wouldn't be possible, Mu Yue thought after experimenting. That improvement must be what lets the second layer convert chakra. The ability to convert a leaking tailed beast chakra into usable chakra was incredibly valuable. He didn't have a tailed beast now, but who knew the future? He wouldn't mind a portable chakra source implanted in his body. The system had increased his chakra by almost 40,000 in 10 months, but that still felt tiny compared to the real monsters, like the Nine-Tails. During the Fourth Great Ninja War, Naruto shared the Nine Tails chakra with the allied shinobi forces and instantly powered huge numbers of shinobi. Hinata, who'd struggled against a Ten Tails clone, could land a hit on its main body after receiving that chakra. The scale was terrifying. Empowering tens of thousands of people at once would require enormous reserves. Even if the Nine Tails were appraised as having tens of millions or more chakra, Mu Yue wouldn't be surprised. Hashirama's reserves put even that in perspective. Naruto plus a full Nine Tails together had roughly the same chakra as Hashirama. How much was that? Compared to those figures, Mu Yue's 40,000 felt pitiful. He resolved to keep working. His disciples had a decent chance of reaching around 100,000 chakra each. With Trust Level 4's fourfold effect, that could mean 400,000 chakra for one person. Still not on the level of tailed beasts or the great cheats, but far beyond ordinary people. After studying sealing all evening and making dinner, Mu Yue practiced sealing some more, then switched to water-breathing development after 8. He had a strong talent for sealing, and he wanted a sealing technique that could enhance his stamina, so he devoted more time to it. On the morning of the third day of exams, the grade-level practical exam, yearly, began. Mu Yue went to the fourth grade arena to observe. 9-year-old Obito's two-tomoe Sharingan was still dazzlingly dangerous, so Mu Yue, as he had with Shisui, forbade Obito from using his Sharingan casually, only during training or missions. To balance things and keep his students low-key, Mu Yue also forbade Metkai from using the second gate of the 8 gates during ninja school exams. Activating the second gate along with rock breathing and total concentration breathing could frighten the chuunin proctors. Metkai's noon leopard could easily kick a chuunin teacher to death. Demonstrating that kind of power in the chuunin exams was one thing. Showing it in a school test was excessive. The 16 participants in the grade-level practical exam yearly are all students who've become intern ninja, someone observed. Yes, selection seems mainly based on strength, another agreed. Before the first fight even began, the students were already speculating about the contestants. The first match is about to start. Student number 1, Shiranui Genma, and student number 2, Ebisu, prepare, the proctor announced. Even though we're friends, I won't go easy on you, Shiranui Genma said with a grin, patting Ebisu. Same to you, Ebisu answered flatly and walked with Genma toward the field. Someone in the crowd muttered, "It's the developer of that enemy confusion technique," and Ebisu's face darkened. He glanced back, but couldn't find the speaker. When the match started, both fighters used everything they had, holding nothing back. Despite being friends, there was no mercy in the arena. In the end, Shiranui Genma proved stronger and won. Shiranui Genma wins, the proctor called. It seems internships really help. Their strength has definitely increased. Someone said after watching. To Mu Yue, this was normal. These new teachers were excellent picks, far stronger than ordinary chuunin instructors, and when students were trained as interns rather than pupils, progress came faster. The second match, number 3 Uchiha Obito versus number 4 Hyuga Homura, the proctor announced. I wish Metkai and Obito had met earlier. I came to see that match, someone sighed. No one contradicted them. Hyuga Homura had been notable for a while, but no one now thought he could stand against Obito or Metkai. Facing either of those two usually meant elimination. Hyuga Homura heard the chatter and felt stung. He knew he'd likely lose, but hearing it openly said like that hurt. Battle! Start! The proctor shouted as they formed the seals. Homura activated his Byakugan, veins bulging around his eyes, steeling himself. He really wanted to beat Uchiha Obito and prove his critics wrong. Flame breathing, total concentration breathing. Obito filled his lungs with oxygen and focused his breathing technique. His opponent was a ninja school student. Obito had once been top of his grade and had beaten a jonin with his teammates. He didn't take Homura too seriously and intended to end the match quickly. Fire release, great fireball technique. Obito breathed out a 3-meter-high fireball at Homura. The Hyuga couldn't withstand that level of fire release and burst chakra to dodge. Obito dashed toward where Homura had moved. Homura's Byakugan tracked Obito's approach perfectly, but no matter how clearly he saw it, his body couldn't match the speed of that strike. Obito used Shave to accelerate and suddenly appeared beside Homura, pouring power into his right arm. With his breathing technique driving his chakra, he threw a solid punch. Homura watched the fist close in and tried to evade, but he couldn't match the speed. Bang! A single punch sent Homura flying. Obito then tossed a kunai to land near Homura's fall, making his intent clear. Uchiha Obito wins, the proctor announced. If this had been a real fight, Homura might have been killed by that blow. Obito's improved so much, he just used Taijutsu to beat Homura. Shiranui Genma murmured, wincing. Genma was slated to face Obito next, and the prospect was daunting. Other students were equally surprised that Obito had eliminated Homura almost entirely with Taijutsu and only modest ninjutsu. With that kind of Taijutsu, Obito has a real shot at winning this time, someone said. Metkai used only Taijutsu, and Obito now combined better Taijutsu with excellent fire release, so his odds looked strong. The grade-level practical exam moved much faster than the class practicals. Mu Yue watched quickly as the bracket advanced. Because of their numbers, Obito and Metkai didn't meet in the finals this time. They were set to clash in the quarterfinals. The arrival of two such heavy hitters made the students and teachers around the arena grow serious. Chapter 234, Unprinted Fire Escape? We can leave after watching this fight. The winner will definitely take first place, someone said. I heard both of them studied under teacher Mu Yue. Obito's taijutsu has clearly improved. Guy hasn't shown his full strength yet, but he should be better too. I just don't know if his improvement matches Obito's, another student replied. All the students were excited. Matches between Metkai and Obito were always a spectacle. Their victories often traded back and forth, and their abilities far outpaced the others. Before the match began, Obito leaned in and warned, Guy, you haven't forgotten the restrictions, have you? Don't get overexcited and open the gate of healing. I'd never be that careless. I've already kept it in check, Metkai answered with a grin and a thumbs up. They exchanged a few gestures, took their stances, and formed the confrontation seal. After about 20 seconds, the proctor shouted, Begin! Both fighters changed their breathing instantly, entering a breathing technique state. Flame breathing. Total concentration breathing, Obito called, plunging into the demanding total concentration state. Having practiced constant state training, he trusted his stamina with the breathing technique. Their bodies flickered as they exchanged punches and kicks at incredible speed. Though old rivals who'd clashed many times during school practicals and in Mu Yue's combat training, they still started with cautious probing attacks. Each had a sense the other had grown stronger. Obito couldn't use his Sharingan in this match, but his chakra reserves had increased, and his progress in flame breathing and yin release had been substantial. Guy, though barred from opening the second gate, had improved his breathing technique and fortified his physique. After testing each other, Guy called out, 8 gates, gate of opening, open, and pushed the gate system to boost his physical strength. Obito, having finished his probing, flashed back to create distance. The arena was flat and cramped. He needed space to cast ninjutsu, or he'd be knocked out by one of Guy's full-power kicks. He prepared for the trade-off. Fire release, great fireball technique. Obito gathered chakra at his throat, performed a rapid nature transformation, and spat a titanic fireball. Guy's face didn't change. He seemed to expect the technique was a feint, and the real threat would follow. Bursting chakra into his legs, Guy accelerated to astounding speed and sidestepped the roaring fireball. So fast! He's like he's in a different place in the blink of an eye, the crowd cried. Obito hurled shuriken with his right hand to hamper Guy's movement, but Guy dodged them all and closed the gap. Then Obito suddenly changed tactics. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Fire technique. He barked and released a volley of small fireballs. Guy blinked. This wasn't a hand seal-less jutsu, but he noticed Obito's left hand tucked behind his back and understood at once. Obito had a habit of using a kunai for one-handed seals. This time, he hid the hand seal action to catch Guy off guard. The students watching were stunned. How did Obito release fire release without forming any hand seals? Don't all ninjutsu need seals? Someone demanded. I saw him still throwing shuriken. How did he suddenly spit fireballs? Shiranui Genma muttered, baffled. Even the teachers looked puzzled. Is Obito performing some advanced Uchiha fire application that doesn't need seals? One teacher asked Ikeya Yu. since Obito was one of his students. Ikeyu hesitated. It could be an advanced application technique. Uchiha specialize in fire release, he offered. Mu Yue stepped forward. It's not that he uses no seals, he's performing one-handed seals. Hand seals guide chakra. With enough mastery, you can simplify or do them one-handed. It reduces the stealth of forming seals. In Obito's case, he also has a boost from flame breathing. That explanation made sense. One-handed seals were obscure knowledge in the ninja world, but plausible. Truly skilled Shinobi can simplify, or sometimes even omit, seals without losing power, and the advantage of one-handed seals is stealth. Obito's trick relied on form and timing as much as technique. Rock breathing, total concentration breathing, Guy responded, bracing himself. Facing the incoming small fireballs at close range, Guy concentrated his breathing to strengthen every muscle. He had unleashed everything he could except the second gate. Total concentration. Breathing amplified his aura. Its effect grows as one's breathing technique improves, and Guy's had come a long way. He slammed out kicks that detonated the first two fireballs, then burst into blinding speed to avoid the rest. Any fireballs he couldn't dodge, he struck head-on. Rock breathing enhanced his entire body, not just strength and speed, but defense and resilience, so although he looked ragged from the collision, none of the blasts had done damage significant enough to impede him. His body's so tough, he kicked away several fireballs and still runs like the fire never hit him, someone exclaimed. Obito used the fire techniques and the element of surprise to try to seize the match. As he retreated, he formed hand seals. Demonic illusion, tree-binding death. Obito unleashed the genjutsu he'd learned recently. To him, a massive tree exploded from the ground and wrapped around Guy, immobilizing him. To everyone else, Guy had simply frozen in place mid-run. Smug, Obito stalked forward with a kunai at Guy's throat, already picturing the proctor declaring his victory. What happened to Guy? Why'd he just stop? Shiranui Genma asked. Looks like Obito's going to win, Ebisu observed, recognizing the signs of an illusion. Obito tasted victory, but his celebration was premature. Guy's vacant stare cleared, and he snapped back to reality. Genjutsu release. He seemed to will himself. Leaf-strong whirlwind. Guy erupted with chakra, unleashing a whirlwind kick at extreme speed. He'd been targeted by genjutsu before, and had sought Mu Yue's guidance on resisting and breaking illusion techniques. The sudden counterattack caught Obito off guard. He barely had time to cross his arms for a block. Guy's strike sent Obito flying backward. Not relenting, Guy leaped and drove an aerial elbow into Obito, sending him crashing to the ground and kicking up a cloud of dust. Obito lay motionless. Guy stood over him. The proctor called it, "Might Guy wins." Mu Yue watched, thoughtful. The terrain had favored Guy, and although Obito had engineered a mid-match surprise that gave him a strong chance, he'd become overconfident at the decisive moment. His combat awareness still needed work. Might Guy really can't be underestimated. Even if Taijutsu is his only offensive art, his Taijutsu is overwhelming, Shiranui Genma said. He'd favored Obito at first. Obito's ninjutsu was already powerful, but Obito had just shown remarkable taijutsu as well. He left no obvious weak points. Does Guy's father have a strong taijutsu background? How else can he be this good? Ebisu muttered, thoughtful. The onlookers buzzed. The fight between Might Guy and Obito had been extraordinary, far beyond the usual student contest. Obito, still reeling, could only say weakly, "I didn't expect you to have a hidden move too, Guy." Might Guy grinned, flashing 2 rows of white teeth. "Ha, it wasn't that I was hiding it. I just never had the chance to use it before." He hadn't really meant to conceal anything. This was the first genjutsu he'd been caught in since learning how to dispel it. He reached out a hand and helped Obito to his feet. There was still a 4-versus-2 match to go. "Obito, are you okay?" Rin Nohara asked softly, worry etched across her face. Her concern healed him more than any bandage. Obito straightened, puffed out his chest, and tried to look proud as he stepped a few paces in front of her. "I'm fine. I just got hit a couple times. Nothing to worry about." Rin studied him, unconvinced, and poked at his side where Guy's elbow had struck. "Hiss!" Sharp pain shot through him. His face went white. "You say you're fine, but you're clearly hurt," she said sternly, meeting his eyes. "When you went down, the ground looked like it was going to split. How can you say you're okay?" Obito kept quiet. He wanted to appear strong in Rin's eyes. Strong people didn't complain. "Let me do some medical ninjutsu," Rin said, hands on her hips but gentle. "Guy, come too. You probably burned from that fire release. It might affect your next match." Might Guy nodded. He wasn't immune to ninjutsu. He'd taken some damage from the Phoenix Sage fire technique, but his willpower let him push through. Mu Yue watched without stepping forward to heal. He wouldn't steal this small duty from Rin. The three of them moved away from the crowd and sat beneath a large, secluded tree. Green chakra glowed around Rin's hands as she placed them on Obito's stomach. She'd been studying medical ninjutsu for 5 months and could now handle basic treatment. "Thanks, Rin. You saved me," Obito said, scratching the back of his head. Though embarrassed that she'd seen through his bravado, he was sincerely grateful. Might Guy flashed a thumbs up. "I'm back to peak condition already. Thank you. I'm not a guy with blazing fire release or blinding taijutsu," Rin replied with a smile, "but you can leave the healing to me. Especially you. Obito, don't try to be tough. You've got to tell me when you need treatment. Do you not trust me?" "Of course I trust you," Obito blurted. He wasn't good at flattery, and this wasn't the time to argue. "I worry about you," Rin sighed, hand to her forehead. "After graduation, Mu Yue and I won't always be around. Your teammates might not be as reliable as Kakashi and Guy. If you get hurt on a mission," Obito chuckled despite himself. Rin's scolding was actually a sign she cared. When they rejoined the exam grounds, the final 4 versus 2 match finished, and the practical exam reached its last battle. Half the spectators had already left, convinced Guy would win. The others stayed out of curiosity or obligation. "Might Guy wins!" The shout went as expected. He'd won decisively. His opponent hadn't been Obito, so Guy hadn't needed to open the 8 gates. He simply activated his breathing technique and finished the match in an instant. The proctor barely had time to shout "Start!" before declaring the outcome. "Today's youth burned with great passion," Might Guy declared, giving himself a thumbs up. He'd taken first place in his grade again and felt he was 1 step closer to his dream. "Guy, congratulations on first place," Mu Yue said, smiling as he handed his disciple a piece of his calligraphy, 3 characters. "Here, there's a will, there's a way." Might Guy felt the teacher's expectations in the ink strokes. "Teacher Mu Yue, I will train with everything I have and achieve my dream," Might Guy shouted, tears and determination in his eyes. "I believe in you. You will become the strongest in taijutsu," Mu Yue answered warmly. Mu Yue also took a moment to comfort Obito. After their time in the South Border Forest, he pulled Obito aside for a long conversation and, though it wouldn't trigger a reward, gave him a copy of his calligraphy as well. Something unexpected happened then. The system registered a reward for Mu Yue's gift to Might Guy. "You gifted your disciple your personal calligraphy. Your disciple is extremely grateful, triggering a great critical reward. You received the reward, Brick Break, Mastery." Mu Yue blinked at the notification, puzzled at first. Mastery level Brick Break? He remembered the origin after the system fed him a cultivation memory. Brick Break was a fighting skill from another world, performed as a downward hand chop. In that world, it could break defenses like Light Screen or Reflect. The system had localized it into a taijutsu for this world. Mu Yue examined the included techniques. Brick Break now had 2 variants, a close-range version, where chakra is focused around the hand to increase penetration, and a longer-range version that used more chakra and did slightly less damage but could strike distant opponents, somewhat akin to the 8 trigrams empty palm. The key lay in compressing chakra to increase density and impact. It wasn't merely brute force. Like Tsunade's Strength of 100 technique, it required careful chakra control. "Maybe I should call it Leaf Handblade," Mu Yue mused. Brick Break sounds odd. He decided he could rename it when he taught it. After exams, the students' holiday ended and training resumed. Mu Yue immediately ramped up intensity to get everyone back in shape. Shisui and Obito did question-solving special training, while Kakashi and a Mu Yue shadow clone worked on lightning breathing sparring. "This time, I'll try to keep it under 30 questions," Obito said with determination. His required number had been dropping in each session. "Just dodge like before," Shisui replied confidently. He'd already evaded Mu Yue's attacks once without activating his Sharingan. The training began. The 2 ran, then reversed course, when Mu Yue's clone chased them. Shisui opened his Sharingan to track the clone's movements. He hadn't planned to stand in place and wait. He knew peak performance didn't always come. When he had to stay to take an attack, though, he fixed his gaze on Mu Yue's finger. My grandfather failed, Shisui thought. I must do what he couldn't, end the Uchiha's prejudice. I'm Mu Yue's first disciple. I can dodge this. His breathing deepened. Flame breathing, total concentration breathing. The feeling of flames burning within his limbs gave him strength. Mu Yue's finger came so close it brushed Shisui's hair. He'd done it. Shisui allowed a faint smile, then used body flicker to create distance and resume evasion. When Mu Yue announced the results, it was clear progress had been made. Obito was hit 17 times, dodged twice, 30 questions total. Shisui was hit 15 times, dodged twice, 26 questions. Only 26? Obito said, envious. Shisui's improvement outpaced his. It's just 4 questions, Shisui said with a small smile. That's 4 whole questions. Obito protested. Mu Yue tapped him on the head with a finger. Obito tried to dodge, but the tap landed square on his forehead. If you think you can't finish them, do them in installments, Mu Yue advised. No, I'll try my best, Obito insisted. He didn't want to fall into the habit of splitting his tasks. 2 days after the exam, Obito didn't head straight to the South Border Forest in the morning. Today, the ninja school would release the official grades. Mu Yue had told him to check them first. Obito was eager to see the expressions on everyone's faces when they saw his mission history on the report card. 236. Exam settlement. How many points did I get this time? In a good mood, Anko squeezed into the crowd around the results board with her 2 good brothers. Her big eyes scanned the board, found Class 1, Grade 1, and then hunted for her own name. Only 81? She scratched her head, displeased. She'd really studied this time, skipped Saturday and Sunday outings to review, yet the result was about the same as before. She checked Kotetsu's score next. He had said earlier that he'd done average, but his score read 97. Anko clenched her fists. Then she looked for Izumo, who'd complained of doing poorly. His score was 98, 1 point higher than Kotetsu's, and Anko's fists clenched even tighter. She had already spotted Shisui's score when scanning for them, 100. Okay, so 97 is average and 98 is a little poor? Anko fumed. She immediately wanted to give her 2 good brothers a piece of her mind. The sting of being beaten by a second-place finisher in the grade-level practical exam still rankled. Shisui called his score so-so and got 100. Why don't you go bug him? Izumo, sensing the tension, tried to deflect. Because he always gets 100, so when he says it's the same, it really is, Anko said, rubbing her palms together. It wasn't just rivalry. Her relationship with Shisui wasn't great, and she couldn't beat him anyway. We get these scores every time, Kotetsu protested, unconvinced. But you guys are too full of yourselves. Anko snapped, ready to strike. A ripple of shocked voices cut across the board. Wow, Metkai and Uchiha Obito actually completed 1 B rank mission and even 2 A rank missions. I thought D and C rank missions were for chuunin do C and B rank, and chuunin shouldn't be doing A rank missions. How did they at A rank missions? The intern ninja students were baffled. The results board, full of D rank entries from intern ninja, suddenly made Metkai's and Obito's 2 A rank and 1 B rank missions stand out like beacons. Teachers posting the scores were stunned too. They knew their students had done a few B rank missions, but not A rank. Anko, who loved any commotion, briefly let her 2 good brothers off the hook and squeezed in to look at Obito's records. Uchiha Tekka didn't usually check scores, but because Obito had bragged in class earlier, Tekka came by out of curiosity to see how far Obito's claims went. The buzzing voices told him enough. How is that possible? Uchiha Tekka frowned. This wasn't ninja-like at all. Seeing is believing, he thought, and pushed through the crowd to find Obito's entry. When he did, he stared, shocked. 2 A-rank missions and a B-rank mission? Really? He hadn't expected Obito's outlandish claim to be true. How could an intern ninja get missions even regular Jonin can't? Tekka wondered. He even considered that Obito might have altered the board early in the morning to cover his lie. He'd rather believe the writing was false than accept the impossible. Word spread. Classmates and other intern ninja who'd once thought Obito was bragging flocked to the board. When they saw the entries, the sense of being slapped in the face by reality was palpable. Could Mu Yue-sensei be that strong? Stronger than normal jonin? One intern ninja, who'd questioned Obito earlier, felt his cheeks burn with embarrassment. It looks like what Obito said is true. I'm so jealous of Obito and Guy. This internship is incredible. They actually fought jonin during missions, someone else murmured. Shiranui Genma looked at Obito's 2 A-rank missions with envy. Ebisu analyzed sensibly. Mu Yue-sensei probably handled the jonin fights. Obito and the others likely fought enemies below enemy jonin, or supported Mu Yue-sensei against jonin. He couldn't believe, even if Obito and Guy were strong, they had independently reached a level to take on jonin. Regardless, it was impressive. The rest of the intern ninja had been doing odd jobs while Obito and company were clashing with ninja from villages. Even those who doubted Obito before had to eat their words. Just then, Obito and Metkai arrived, Rin Nohara and Kakashi walking with them. The students nearby were still buzzing about the A-rank missions. Hey, Guy, they're talking about us, Obito said with a grin as he listened to the chatter. He dragged Kakashi over on purpose. He'd been shown off by Kakashi for so long, he wanted Kakashi to taste the other side for once. But it's us being outstanding. Not everyone gets the privilege of taking higher-level missions early, Obito added before Metkai could speak. I think Mu Yue-sensei has a lot to do with it, Kakashi said, unable to stay silent. Indeed, in the end, Hokage-sama checked with Mu Yue before granting us the privilege. Metkai agreed, stroking his chin. He acknowledged their own merits but credited Mu Yue as well. At first, the crowd was so large it barely noticed their arrival. As they squeezed in, more faces turned. Obito, Guy, Rin, oh, Kakashi, you're here too. Long time no see, Shiranui Genma said, surprised to see Kakashi. He hadn't been as close to Kakashi and hadn't seen him in about 3 years. Long time, Kakashi replied calmly with a nod. I knew it, Obito. You were right. You're really strong, Shiranui Genma said, slapping Obito on the shoulder and smiling. Of course I wouldn't brag. It's really just so-so, Obito said, barely containing his joy. How about you, Kakashi? You couldn't do this, right? Obito smirked, pointing to his mission tally. When I graduated, the intern ninja system didn't exist, so of course I couldn't, Kakashi said levelly. Still, facing Obito, he had no intention of giving compliments. He wanted to put Obito in his place. There is one thing you did that I truly can't do. Oh, Kakashi, you admit it at last. Obito's smile widened, but Kakashi kept going. Scoring 40 on the theoretical exam, that's something I really can't do. With such a simple test, even a casual attempt should net 60, right? Obito's smile froze. He'd been scheming all morning for a comeback and had forgotten his abysmal theory score. He'd trained with Mu Yue all semester, and the final exam had covered what Mu Yue had taught. He'd only scored 40. He'd been so focused on practical training that he'd neglected theory. So what if my theory is weak? Doing well on tests doesn't defeat an opponent. Didn't I still beat you in the practical exam? Obito shot back, trying to change the subject. The nearby students were stunned by that single sentence. Obito beat Kakashi in a practical exam? Shiranui Genma was frozen. Everyone in Kakashi's generation knew just how strong Kakashi was. He'd been prodigious, mastering the shadow clone early, throwing flawless shuriken barrages, graduating fast. For Obito to claim a victory over Kakashi was astonishing. One win doesn't mean I win every time. I'll take it back sooner or later, Kakashi said, accepting his loss. Their exchange left the 4th grade students in stunned silence. Intern ninja who'd assumed Kakashi carried Obito were forced to reconsider. Obito might actually be stronger than Kakashi. Metkai, ever exuberant, flashed his grin. My dear friend, keep training. I'm always ready for your challenge. That day won't be far off, Kakashi said seriously. He was close to mastering the total concentration, lightning breathing, and once he completed his training with nature transformation to enhance his nerves, his power would change qualitatively. Their conversations startled onlookers again. If Kakashi and Metkai were phrasing their rivalry like challengers, did that mean Kakashi had lost to Guy? And if Obito beat Kakashi while having recently lost to Guy, everything lined up. Shiranui Genma sighed inwardly. During summer special training, he had hoped to catch up to Guy and Obito, but now the gap felt insurmountable. He defeated Chuunin even before graduating, and Kakashi was a genius. Still, Guy and Obito's level put them far ahead. Kakashi noticed eyes on him, people staring, as if they were seeing a fallen idol, but he ignored them. After all, he'd learned to disregard irrelevant gazes. After checking the results and trading barbs, the group returned to the forest to cultivate. System messages appeared. Disciple Uchiha Shisui diligently cultivated and achieved a perfect score in the academic assessment, receiving a reward. Chakra plus 300, skill proficiency scroll. Disciple Uchiha Obito diligently cultivated and achieved a good score in the academic assessment, receiving a reward. Disciple Metkai diligently cultivated and achieved a good score in the academic assessment, receiving a reward. Mu Yue also received his exam rewards, a total of 700 chakra points and a useful skill proficiency scroll. His practical exam results were about the same, but his theoretical score had slipped slightly since he hadn't studied recently, though he didn't mind. The chakra he'd earned from taking Obito and the others on missions had been far more than the exam payout. 3 days of training later, on the 6th day after the exam, Mu Yue took his disciples to the Hokage building to accept missions. Since it was Obito's birthday and they'd been in Konoha for over half a month for the exam, it was time to stretch their legs in the field. Any C-rank missions? Any country or type is fine, Mu Yue asked, prepared to go with the flow. And C-rank mission, let me see. The registration ninja lowered his head and flipped through the scrolls. There are C-rank missions, but the remaining ones are all war missions. The ordinary C-rank requests were taken earlier. He looked up at Mu Yue. There are still a few D-rank jobs. Jonin Mutsuki, why don't you take some D-rank missions first? Maybe new C-rank jobs will appear tomorrow. What rotten luck. Mu Yue hadn't expected that. He'd wanted to see what a normal C-rank payout looked like, but all the regular missions had already been assigned. After thinking a moment, he decided to take his students back to train. The chakra rewards on D-rank missions were too small to bother with. Better to spend the day improving his disciples. Heh, old man, just give us a B rank. Obito laughed, unwilling to accept D ranks. We already finished 2 A rank missions. A B rank's nothing. You'll have to be a chuunin before you can take B rank jobs. The registration ninja was merciless. I don't care about resumes, only ninja rank matters. But look, in our team, Teacher Mu Yue is a special jonin, Kakashi's a chuunin, and we two aren't even graduated yet, so we don't count. That should qualify us, right? Obito tried to weasel his way through. No, you have intern ninja certificates. You're still interns. The registration ninja's expression cut him off. Then give us a C-rank war mission. They're all C-rank anyway. What's the difference? Obito kept pushing. There's a big difference. The registration ninja's face went suddenly serious. War missions are tied to conflict. The battlefield is no place for children like you. Think about it again once you're chuunin. Why so stern with the kids, Sawada? Hiruzen Sarutobi's voice came from the entrance. The third Hokage often lingered in the mission hall after his official duties, a reassuring presence for clients and a reminder to the village's ninja that the Hokage cared about both the missions and those who took them. Sire, Jonin Mutsuki came for a C rank, but the only C ranks left are war missions, and this child named Obito. Sawada Kazuya straightened and explained the situation to the Hokage. Hiruzen puffed on his pipe, studied the staff officer a moment, and considered Mu Yue's squad. In strength, they could handle B-rank work. Mu Yue was more than a simple special jonin from Root. Kakashi was a capable chuunin. Obito and Metkai were also strong for their age. B-rank enemies tended to be genin at most, so this team wouldn't be outmatched. Still, 2 members were interns, and the registration rules favored C-rank assignments until they were promoted. Hokage uncle, you know our team's strength, Obito said, eyes bright. A C-rank war mission is still C-rank. We'll be fine. Hiruzen studied the scroll Sawada gave him. When he unrolled it, the task was an escort, deliver food to a battlefield in the grass country. A C-rank war mission like this mostly involved logistics, moving supplies rather than fighting. Normally an escort like this wouldn't be C-rank, but because Konoha and Iwagakure were contesting the grass country and each held part of it, the supply routes were vulnerable. Squads could hunt or carry rations for short-term operations, but a prolonged, large-scale conflict required organized transport from the rear. Sometimes it was urgent resupply, other times it was the regular movement of provisions. This assignment was one of the latter. "You've done well," Hiruzen said with a small laugh, "so I'll make an exception and let you take this war mission." He handed the scroll to Mu Yue. "What do you think?" Mu Yue took the scroll with both hands, read the details carefully, and then nodded. "We will not disappoint, Lord Third Hokage. We will complete it perfectly." It was a safe war mission by his estimation, an escort where direct combat was unlikely. He was glad Obito's forwardness had kept them from simply going back to training with nothing to do. Mu Yue could be blunt when necessary, but his position didn't permit him to push for higher ran, co-work. Obito, on the other hand, didn't know when to stop. "Thank you, Hokage uncle." Obito immediately beamed. "You're the village's future. Be careful," Hiruzen told them, removing his pipe and smiling kindly. "Now, Teacher Mu Yue, show me the mission details." As they walked out of the Hokage's office, Obito could barely contain his curiosity. The more they were told not to do something, the more he wanted to know why. Mu Yue handed the scroll around and the students read it. Obito's grin faded. "What is this? It's just an escort, food instead of people. Boring." He sounded disappointed. "This is different," Kakashi said, more serious. "It's to an active battlefield, a contested zone between two great shinobi villages. That's one of the most dangerous places in the ninja world." He didn't like Obito underestimating the risk. Even a Kage could encounter trouble on a battlefield. Even if combat is unlikely, stay alert. Obito's face lit up at Kakashi's caution. "You just said there won't be fighting, so that means there'll be fighting." He grinned at the chance. Kakashi blinked. "How did you get that from what I said?" "Last 3 times you said nothing would happen, and a fight broke out every time," Obito explained solemnly. So this time, Kakashi had no answer. It had been coincidence. "We had bad luck in the last missions, but most of the route is safe inside our territory. The stretch toward the grass country will also have Konoha ninja on guard," he said matter-of-factly. "Let's stop arguing and do the mission. War missions can't be delayed." Mu Yue led them to the supply convoy. A middle-aged man stepped forward after confirming Mu Yue was the captain. "Ninja-sama, we're ready. We can leave at once." "Very well, let's move," Mu Yue gave the order. Since the client was Konoha itself, he had full authority over the operation. He and his disciples were in charge, followed by the ordinary men moving the provisions. The convoy of horse-drawn carts filled with food rumbled toward the grass country, while Mu Yue and the 3 students rode in a carriage not carrying supplies. "Teacher Mu Yue, isn't there a jutsu to seal things into scrolls?" Obito asked. "Why don't we just put all the food into a few scrolls and escort those? Fewer carts, fewer people, much quieter." "That's not a simple fix." Mu Yue smiled and explained how storage scrolls worked. They were tools created by ninjutsu, and how much could be sealed depended on both the tool and the ninja using it. You couldn't just cram endless supplies into one scroll. War required enormous quantities, thousands of hungry troops, and they needed constant resupply. Powerful shinobi were needed for key operations, not hauling rations. So the job fell to a mixed team of ninja and civilians. Obito nodded, half satisfied, as if he'd learned something arcane. "What's the battlefield like? Have you ever been there, Teacher Mu Yue?" Obito asked. Mu Yue shook his head. Neither in his previous life nor in this one had he been to an actual battlefield. "How about you, Kakashi?" Obito pressed. "I've done a few war missions," Kakashi said after thinking, "but I haven't fought on a proper battlefield. I'm still just a kid." He'd been on dangerous tasks, but not full-scale battles. "You acted like you knew so much," Obito complained. Kakashi's serious manner had been convincing earlier. "I haven't fought on a battlefield, but I've learned from my elders," Kakashi replied, more solemn now. "War is not something to be taken lightly." 238. War Rises. The Grass Country is a small nation northwest of the Land of Fire. Unlike the Land of Rice Fields and the Land of Rivers that Mu Yue had visited before, the Grass Country not only has its own ninja village, the Grass Village, but is also considered one of the stronger small nations in the ninja world. However, its awkward position has kept that strength from being fully shown. The Grass Country borders 4 nations, 2 small and too great. To the northeast lies the land of waterfalls, and given its terrain, the grass country has no way to expand into it. To the south and west, it meets the land of rain, sharing half of its border with it. The land of rain, however, is the strongest village below the 5 great shinobi villages, too formidable to try to conquer. The remaining borders touch the land of earth and the land of fire. Provoking either would be unthinkable, so the grass country must bow low and play the subordinate. During the Second Shinobi World War, the Rain Village already proved the might of the 5 great shinobi villages to the wider world. Even if a smaller village could put up a fight in certain matchups, against the 5 great, the lesser villages would be crushed. Survival, then, has meant siding with those who win, so Konoha, consistently victorious, became the grass country's ally. Still, the grass country could not fully commit to Konoha and had to show friendship to Iwagakure as well, lest it be an easy target in wartime. Its location made it a natural battleground for clashes between the great nations. In fact, the grass country was probably the best, if not the only place, where Iwagakure could engage Konoha without drawing Wind Country into the conflict. The Land of Rain might have been an even better staging ground, but it bordered Wind, making any move there far more politically treacherous. All this made the grass country the optimal route for Iwagakure to attack Konoha. Perhaps because the front line was settled for now, the escort mission went unusually smoothly. The convoy met no attacks on the way, no bandits, nothing. Mu Yue suspected that any ordinary brigand seeing such a large caravan would at least assume ninja guards had been hired. Besides, in wartime bandits didn't dare wander where battles might suddenly erupt. Hey, we haven't seen a single enemy in a while. Maybe Kakashi was right this time, Obito said from atop the carriage, looking around with a hint of disappointment. I told you it was just bad luck before, Kakashi said calmly. There's no way we'd have accidents 4 times in a row. He regarded the trip as perfectly normal for a C-rank mission. The previous trips had been the real anomalies. The first and third had been so intense they might as well have been S-rank. Once 2 Jonin turned up, another time a Raikage candidate. Kakashi had begun to wonder whether he really did bring bad luck. How about a race full of youth and passion? Metkai offered enthusiastically. I refuse, Kakashi said at once. He didn't want pointless exertion during a mission. No, Obito added, declining Guy's offer too. He was pretty sure he couldn't win. He might have enjoyed a challenge from Kakashi, but not this. Metkai looked disappointed, then leapt off the carriage and ran alongside it. Mu Yue didn't stop him. It was only a warm-up for Guy. Since leaving Konoha, Mu Yue periodically used a sensing ninjutsu to check for threats. If he could keep the Byakugan up constantly, it would be better, but it consumed far too much chakra to be practical. So he activated it every hour to scan the surroundings. With the Byakugan, he could see faces and details that mere chakra sensing couldn't reveal. Within a 1.5-kilometer radius, nothing could hide from him. With no enemies in sight, Obito wandered and chatted with the caravan workers about work, life, family, everything. How much do you get for a single commission? He asked casually. At busy times, maybe 7,000 ryo a month, usually around 5,000, one worker said after thinking. 5,000 a month? You don't work many hours? Obito scratched his head, bewildered. The minimum reward for a D-rank mission was 5,000 ryo, and those lowest-level mission payouts were tax-free. Mu Yue split earnings evenly, so by doing 4 D-rank missions, which could usually be finished in an afternoon, Obito could make 5,000 ryo. The worker fell silent, unsure how to answer. Of course, they didn't work only a few hours. They worked nearly every day and sometimes around the clock when pay was higher. Of course, us ordinary folk can't compare to you ninja, the worker finally said. The cost of buying ninja tools each month might be equivalent to what a normal family would struggle to earn in a year. Such was the gap. When the convoy reached the border of the Land of Fire and prepared to enter the grass country, Mu Yue had his students return to the carriages and go on high alert. We're about to enter the grass country, he said seriously. It's very dangerous right now. Stay vigilant. There are thousands of ninja fighting here. Anything can happen. He spent the next half hour lecturing them about the brutality of war. Mu Yue knew he could protect himself and his 3 disciples, but he didn't want them to underestimate war because of that. War sacrifices people and destroys beautiful things. Even the usually boisterous Obito became quiet and cautious. After they crossed into the grass country, the road itself seemed to gain a grim edge. They began seeing more ninjas, but they were either allied Konoha forces or locals from the grass village. From their expressions, Mu Yue judged the situation was still manageable. If things were worse, the faces would have been grimmer. Is this finally going to be my first ordinary C-rank mission? Mu Yue thought. Their team had already technically completed 3 C-rank missions, but because of the chaos on those runs, there were no clean records to show for them. The nearer they got to the destination, the more chakra Mu Yue picked up with his senses, and he switched to the Byakugan to identify people. Every hour he scanned the area. The convoy reached Konoha's camp on the grass country battlefield without an attack. Mu Yue, what are you doing out here? Minato asked with some surprise when he saw him. In Minato's view, Konoha wouldn't send a ninja academy teacher to the battlefield unless things were desperate. I'm an intern teacher, Mu Yue said with a smile. It's basically like being a jonin in charge of a squad. I brought my students to execute a C-rank war mission, logistics. Minato glanced at the supply wagons and nodded. Keep your students in camp and don't let them wander. Iwagakure hasn't moved for 2 weeks. They might be planning a major offensive. This camp was the rear of the front line and relatively safe, but Minato worried, especially since 2 of Mu Yue's team were still academy students. We won't wander off, Obito said, feeling a bit put upon. That's best. Following your teacher's orders is how you become great ninja, Minato replied with a gentle smile. Obito thought Minato's smile made him look a lot like Mu Yue. It seems this mission won't have any surprises, Kakashi sighed in relief. Arrival meant the mission was basically complete. Unload the supplies, rest, then return to Konoha. Crack! Suddenly an explosive sound tore through the air. A flare shot into the sky and bloomed. Rumble! A violent explosion followed, a blaze so intense it was visible even from a long way off. Damn it, Iwagakure's launched a large-scale surprise attack. Minato's expression hardened. That flare was Konoha's highest-level alert on the battlefield. Everyone who saw it had to prepare to join the fight. Kakashi watched the signal with a stunned look. Even academy students would know its meaning. Do I really bring bad luck? Kakashi muttered, uneasy that the highest alert had gone up the moment they arrived. Mu Yue's eyes narrowed. He knew what the signal meant too. Who could be leading the attack? The 3rd Tsuchikage? He wondered. It shouldn't be that serious. Could I... TB? He let the thought trail off as the camp rushed to respond. Chapter 239, 2 Jinchuriki. Mu Yue, I'm sorry, but I have to go. Minato bowed briefly to Mu Yue and then vanished with the flash of the flying thunder god. He's gone? I can't even tell where he went. Obito spun around, confused. Usually, even the fastest movement left some trace in the air. This time, it felt like Minato had simply been erased. It's a space-time ninjutsu, Mu Yue said. Think of it as an extremely advanced body flicker. He simplified the explanation for Obito's sake. Although the Flying Thunder God had more uses than pure movement, this description was enough. Obito's eyes widened. He must be really strong. Teacher Mu Yue said he was powerful when they met. If someone like Mu Yue, whose strength ranked above a Raikage candidate, called Minato powerful, then Minato's ability was not to be underestimated. So fast, Kakashi muttered. Metkai looked to Mu Yue. Teacher Mu Yue, what do we do now? The highest alert had already been raised. Although they'd technically been on a C-rank mission, the situation had escalated into full-scale combat. Mu Yue considered for a beat and answered, Help our comrades and take out the enemies, but make sure you don't get yourself killed. He had reasons to be careful. Mu Yue planned to reveal his power slowly. In the Shinobi world, recognition made many things easier. Promotions, new projects, the authority to propose unconventional training. If he openly displayed overwhelming power without context, it would invite suspicion and danger unless he was powerful enough to ignore everyone. So he'd laid groundwork, showing sealing technique talent to Minato and Kushina, demonstrating water and fire release skills during Asuma's training, and quietly mastering wind release to present himself as a quick learner. His hidden root background added plausibility. Root operatives often ran different missions and were evaluated regularly by Danzo, so it wasn't odd for someone to be much stronger than the public assumed. Because he'd been taken out of Root by Hiruzen Sarutobi 6 months earlier, Danzo's last accurate assessment of him dated back 2.5 years. That gap let Mu Yue grow without raising immediate alarm, so long as he didn't become absurdly powerful overnight. As Kakashi said, "We have to fight," Obito said, stretching. The carnage around them made everyone uneasy. Mu Yue silently activated his Byakugan and led his students toward the front. The battlefield was worse than he expected. Scattered limbs, shattered stones, splintered wood, and dark pools of blood. Ninjas from Konoha and Iwagakure lay everywhere, young and old, fierce and frightened, each fighting simply because their forehead protectors told them which side to be on. "This is war," Obito whispered, his knuckles loosening on the kunai. He'd imagined war as a bigger fight, not as a grinding, bloody wasteland. Seeing so many corpses and scattered body parts shook him. A kunai suddenly arced toward a Konoha shinobi nearby. "Watch out!" Obito yelled, but he didn't notice a hail of shuriken coming in from another direction until they were almost on top of him. Clang! Clang! Mu Yue drew a kunai and knocked every shuriken aside. He moved as a shadow, then flashed to intercept a chuunin about to be skewered. "In a chaotic battle like this, always be aware of your surroundings," he told his students as he glanced over the field. He needed to make an impression, but his students mattered more. All 3 of them nodded. There were no lectures, just the stark lesson the battlefield offered. Because so many Konoha forces were being funneled into the fight by the alert, Mu Yue's Byakugan let him see the broader situation. Low and mid-level clashes, and, when not too distant, even the fights between top-tier combatants. He picked out one particular focal point, Jiraiya, flanked by several elite Jonin, and Minato, facing 2 terrifyingly strong figures from Iwagakure. 2 Jinchuriki attacking together, Mu Yue thought. No wonder the highest alert was issued. The Iwagakure pair gave off monstrous chakra signatures. Jiraiya looked as though he expected something catastrophic. He deliberately separated the top-level skirmish from the general melee, no doubt worried about the consequences of a tailed beast bomb. Even with Sage Mode, the residual shockwaves from such an attack could wipe out mid-level shinobi in the area. Mu Yue ignored the high-level duel for the moment and instead focused on the surrounding Iwagakure troops. Reputation was built in layers. Here, with Konoha and Iwagakure forces mixed in the same pit, demonstrating strength would make his name travel beyond the village. He moved into the fold. From Obito's vantage, Mu Yue had blocked the shuriken and then appeared a moment later to pull another chuunin out of danger. The rescued young man managed, "Thank you," before vanishing back into the fray. There were simply too many enemies to stand and talk. Mu Yue kept his rock-breathing state active, gripping a standard kunai, and began cutting through the Iwagakure attackers around him. Rock-breathing lacked the flashy effects of some other styles. No fire bursts, no lightning arcs, but it amplified raw physical prowess and built a formidable body. Even without relying on other techniques, Mu Yue's constant rock-breathing training had hardened him into a fighting machine whose taijutsu alone exceeded most jonin. The Iwagakure soldiers he dispatched were minor in the grand scheme, but the Konoha shinobi nearby took notice. So fast, such strength. Is he a new jonin? I don't remember him. Those he'd saved or relieved by taking out key threats began to whisper. Word spread. This stranger could take down multiple Iwagakure nin with nothing but taijutsu. A shout rose from a nearby cluster. "Jonin, we need help over here." Mu Yue used his Byakugan to locate the source. An Iwagakure ninja with his arms exposed was cutting down several chuunin, moving with brutal efficiency. Mu Yue ran the enemy through with a quick appraisal. Over 5,000 chakra, techniques only at a proficient level, and a passing score of 2,500 being the benchmark for jonin. Mu Yue didn't hesitate. He surged toward the fight. 240, strong enemy on the battlefield. Die! The Iwagakure jonin swung his razor-sharp sword, aiming to finish off the injured Konoha shinobi before him. The wounded man instinctively closed his eyes, expecting death, but years of training made him reopen them almost immediately. He felt no pain. A blonde ninja had appeared beside him, halting the jonin's blade mid-swing. Clang! Metal rang against metal. The Iwagakure Jonin stared in shock. The sudden Konoha arrival was unexpectedly strong. No matter how hard he pushed, he couldn't force his sword down even a millimeter. Mu Yue tightened his breathing technique, surging his strength. The Jonin's blade was driven back instantly, and Mu Yue followed with a smooth kick to the chest. The Jonin flew backward. "Are you all right?" Mu Yue asked the injured Konoha ninja with a faint, reassuring smile. The wounded shinobi felt an odd sense of déjà vu at that warm grin, but there was no time to dwell. "I can still move on my own, sir. Don't worry about me. He's coming back. Don't worry, I'll handle him." Mu Yue adjusted his glasses with his left hand and smiled confidently. He hadn't wanted to reveal too much. Killing that Jonin on arrival would have been trivial for him, but restraint was important for maintaining his cover. Earth Release, Earth Pillar Spear. The Iwagakure Jonin formed hand seals while darting forward. With Byakugan granting a full 360-degree field of vision, Mu Yue's observational skill was unmatched. He detected the ground's subtle vibrations the moment hand seals were made. He grabbed the injured shinobi and threw him toward an empty patch of ground, then rolled out of the way. Boom, boom, thick, jagged stone spikes erupted where Mu Yue had just stood. The Jonin took advantage of the evasive maneuver and lashed out at Mu Yue's eyes with his sword. Mu Yue blocked with a steadied kunai. "Damn, his reaction speed is so fast," the Iwagakure Jonin cursed inwardly. He'd expected to catch the newcomer off guard while he was saving someone, but Mu Yue handled it as if second nature. Clang! 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 A short blade can be deadlier up close. Relying on the Byakugan's sight and the physical boost from his breathing technique, Mu Yue traded blows with the longer sword, slicing open the Jonin repeatedly with his kunai, while remaining untouched himself. Blood marked the Iwagakure warrior's armor and arms. "He's a short blade master," the Jonin realized. Wounds multiplying, he decided to shift tactics and use ninjutsu instead. He tried to widen the distance, but Mu Yue was ready. Fire Release. Great Dragon Fire Technique. Mu Yue formed a single tiger seal, and 3 enormous fire dragons erupted from his mouth, each several meters long, lunging at the Iwagakure Jonin. The sight and searing heat shocked the attacker. He hadn't even seen the hand seals, yet a terrifying level fire release was already upon him. This was no mere short blade specialist. This was a fire release powerhouse. The technique had been delivered too quickly and in perfect timing. The area it covered left the Jonin almost no room to escape. He activated every ounce of chakra he had and tried to harden his body with Earth Release Chakra Transformation. Earth hardening could strengthen a body, but it could not balance offense and defense the way the Earth Spear technique could. Against an expert, it was still only partial protection. If Mu Yue had faced an ordinary Konoha Jonin, the Iwagakure shinobi might have managed to survive. But Mu Yue had prepared his ninjutsu to be lethal, even if the Jonin fought at full power. No matter how hard he struggled, unless he instantly turned into some sort of warrior of light or Kamen Rider, Mu Yue's fire would burn him. Ah! The dragon struck. The Jonin screamed as molten flame licked and devoured him. His earth release hardening failed under the ferocity of the great dragon fire technique. Within moments, the 3 dragons enveloped him completely. Brilliant orange-red flames lit the battlefield, and the Jonin's cries were swallowed by the inferno. When the blaze faded, only ashes remained. The dazzling display drew many eyes from both sides. "Such powerful fire release," an Iwagakure ninja muttered, watching a figure turn to cinders. Those who recognized the fallen Jonin he had mastered body hardening were stunned that a single ninjutsu had erased him. "That, sir, is incredible. He killed a Jonin so fast," the injured Konoha ninja exclaimed. Several chuunin had been injured earlier while trying to stop the Iwagakure forces, and Mu Yue had handled the situation in under 3 minutes. He saved an ally, neutralized the attacker in close quarters with a kunai, and finished him with a devastating fire release. "How does he look so much like Minato?" some observers murmured. A few jumped to conclusions, whispering that Mu Yue might be Minato's brother. The war continued, so most pushed those thoughts aside until after the battle. Fighting at this level required restraint from Mu Yue. He had to calibrate his power to stay disguised. Too much would reveal him, too little would fail. The Iwagakure forces weren't stupid. When a strong Konoha ninja showed up, they pooled to take him down. But Mu Yue, developed to this point, had almost no weakness except chakra reserves, and even there he far outclassed most chuunin and ordinary jonin. He dodged and countered without being seriously harmed. When allies moved in to assist their trapped comrades, Mu Yue's burden eased still more. Under those circumstances, more Iwagakure ninja fell to his hands. Some were pierced by kunai, others burned by fire, and a few were cut down by his wind release. Seeing Mu Yue's effectiveness, the Konoha side's situation brightened, and more of their shinobi began to notice the golden-haired warrior. Boom! A huge explosion rocked the field. Kari appeared beside Mu Yue with a body flicker technique, having just blown a Konoha jonin to pieces. He punched another Konoha ninja to death and turned to Mu Yue with a composed look. "It seems you're the strongest Konoha ninja in this area," Kari said. "If I deal with you, I can mop up the others quickly." "If you can, go ahead and try," Mu Yue replied with a faint smile. There were people in the shinobi world who could say that to him and mean it. Kari was not one of them. Mu Yue's Byakugan could already sense chakra, but he still used the appraisal technique out of caution on the newcomer. Information popped up before him. Kari. Skills. Explosion Release. Mastery 515,000. Earth Release Chakra Nature Transformation. Mastery 1,1515,000. Earth Release, Earth Rising Spear. Kari was indeed a formidable jonin. His chakra reserves and skill proficiencies exceeded those of an average jonin by a comfortable margin. Unfortunately for him, he had met Mu Yue, who had over 10,000 more chakra and a decisive edge in skill. Kari couldn't see chakra like Mu Yue could, nor could he read an opponent with appraisal technique, but he had confidence born of training. He was a member of Iwagakure's Rock Ninja Blast Squad, an elite unit that occupied a special position in the village. Membership required exceptional talent and the explosion release bloodline limit. Kari had come to this war to make a name for himself. He had trained Earth Release and Explosion Release to high proficiency and believed he could rank among Iwagakure's top 20. "Sir, be careful. That's Kari of the Rock Ninja Blast Squad. He's extremely strong. Don't engage him in close combat," a Konoha shinobi shouted. Konoha and Iwagakure had fought for some time. Both sides kept tabs on rising talents. Minato was a name many on the Iwagakure side remembered, and Kari's explosion ability made him notorious among Konoha scouts. Information mattered on the battlefield, so even while under attack, some Konoha ninja shouted warnings to Mu Yue. Kari heard the warnings and smiled with disdain. What good was knowing someone's ability? "Don't let him get close," was easier said than done. "Thank you for the information. I will take care of him," Mu Yue said with a gentle smile.